Chapter 536. Little San, I know what you're thinking, but now is not the time. Tang Hao said calmly. You've been cultivating in the city of massacre for 2 years, and your mind and soul have been infected by the killing intent. You need time to settle down, or else you won't be able to control your body's condition. Come with me, I'll bring you to a place. For the rest of the time, you need to learn and change so that you can control the killing intent in your body. 2 years of slaughter could easily change a person. For example, Tang San was filled with killing intent as soon as he walked out. It was too easy to attract attention. Tang San nodded silently and quickly left with Tang Hao. As Ulaina walked, she recalled the white-clothed reaper's words. As long as you touch it more and get used to it, there won't be this kind of flaw. Touch it more? Thinking about it now, Ulaina felt incomparably shy. How could she touch such a private place? Touch it more? However, this was indeed a very correct method. In fact, Wang Feng's intention was to use his soul power to stimulate that place and lower the sensitivity of that place. Naturally, there would be no such thing as a weak point or lifeline. Moreover, this should only be due to the fusion of the external soul bone and the buttocks, causing the sensitivity of that place to increase. That was why such a problem occurred. Touch it a few times a day for a month, and it would naturally be fine. Other than that, there was no other way. As she ran shyly, Ulaina recalled the memories of the past 2 years. Every time she thought of that white-clothed figure, Ulaina couldn't help but feel her heart palpitate. In all fairness, during the 2 years in the capital of slaughter, she only had admiration for him and was only shocked by his strength and power. She was even more vigilant. Later on, as time slowly passed, the white-clothed reaper in the capital of slaughter was like a peerless jade that had fallen into a quagmire. He was still so pure, causing people to unknowingly be deeply attracted. Although she was also somewhat attracted, she didn't seem like a flirtatious slut in the capital of slaughter. Perhaps the real subtle change was in the last battle, when the white-clothed reaper actually saved her. Ulaina was very clear that if the white-clothed reaper didn't save her at that time, she wouldn't even have the chance to enter the path of hell, let alone walk through it. Star, tell me, what kind of person is he? Ulaina's heart trembled as she communicated with the star in her head. Wu Ao. Xingxing could only communicate with Ulaina through her consciousness, instinctively responding in Ulaina's mind. You said that you also feel close to him. Is it because of his aura? Was it when he was carrying me? Ulaina stared blankly for a moment before chuckling. That's really impressive. You're a soul beast, yet you can actually feel close to it. Ow. All right. I know you're not an ordinary soul beast. Ulaina comforted Xingxing. In the latter half of Hell's Road, her consciousness was almost in a comatose state, and she didn't know what Xingxing felt like. Now that she suddenly recalled the latter half of Hell's Road, Ulaina's lips subconsciously curled into a smile. But perhaps even she herself didn't know how sweet her smile was. Tell me, how do I feel about him? Gratitude, admiration, there should be some of them. Ulaina thought, white-clothed Grim Reaper, Nicholas Wong Wu. I really wonder what kind of person he is. However, he shouldn't be my biggest enemy. Unlike Tang Yin from the Supreme Sky Sect, we'll definitely become enemies in the future. Xingxing didn't answer her. At this moment, a voice in front of her woke Ulaina up. Lass, what's the matter? Why are you smiling so happily? Ulaina stopped in her tracks and looked in front of her. It was the Jew Douluo. The Jew Douluo looked at her with a smile. Elder Jew. Ulaina looked at him with joy in her eyes. I passed Hell's Road. I even obtained the Death God's domain. The Jew Douluo's voice was a little sharp as he smiled. Her Majesty already knows. She came to see you before and was very satisfied with your performance. Come back with us. If she knows that you passed Hell's Road, she should be very happy. Her Majesty is also very curious about your experience in Hell's Road. She hopes that you can go back and tell her about it. Hearing this, Ulaina nodded lightly. A thought suddenly appeared in her mind. I must convince Teacher to let the white-clothed Grim Reaper join the Martial Soul Hall. He's so powerful. Teacher will definitely be very satisfied. At this moment, Ulaina seemed to have thought of something and asked, Is Elder Gui not here? Elder Ghost and Elder Jew had always appeared and disappeared together. They rarely appeared alone. He went to kill someone. The Jew Douluo smiled faintly. Ooh, Hulaina was puzzled. The white-clothed Grim Reaper. The Jew Douluo said slowly. Hearing this, Hulaina's body trembled. She cried out, no. Where's Elder Gui? Let's go and find him. He can't kill the white-clothed Grim Reaper. Upon hearing this news, Hulaina was so shocked that her mind went blank. She didn't even think about it before replying. The Jew Douluo frowned and shook his head. Her Majesty said that the white-clothed Grim Reaper is too strong. He can't be allowed to leave Massacre City alive. She wanted to make a move, but found out that you guys had already entered Hell's Road. She instructed me and Elder Gui to kill him after you guys passed Hell's Road. She wanted you to make a move, but Her Majesty said that we can't disturb your cultivation. Hearing this, Hulaina seemed to understand something. The white-clothed Grim Reaper's strength was gradually revealed. Where a teacher found out about the situation, he already had a premonition that the white-clothed Grim Reaper would be a huge threat. In fact, this was indeed the case. In Hell's Road, the white-clothed Grim Reaper's strength and special abilities had left a deep impression on Hulaina. No, Hulaina said anxiously. He saved me in Hell's Road. Elder Jew, can you make an exception and not kill him first? He's so strong. Wouldn't it be better if he joins the Martial Soul Hall? Hearing this, the Jew Douluo thought for a moment and said, Little girl, what you said makes sense. Although Her Majesty the Pope's order was to kill the white-clothed Grim Reaper directly, there might be some misgivings and suspicions. He felt that this person wasn't easy to control. After all, anyone who could walk out of Massacre City wasn't simple. If Tang Yin didn't seem to have a titled Douluo protecting her, he would have killed her too. But it's not very likely. Do you think that the white-clothed Grim Reaper will join the Martial Soul Hall? The Jew Douluo thought about this and shook his head. Everyone who walks out of Hell's Road is extremely strong and not simple. They will definitely become titled Douluo in the future. You want someone like him to join the Martial Soul Hall and work for us? It's too difficult, but we can still try, right? Hulaina's expression became more and more anxious. Elder Jew, can you stop Elder Gui first? The Jew Douluo seemed to be convinced. He nodded and frowned. All right, it's impossible. With Elder Gui's strength, I hope that the white-clothed Grim Reaper can hold on for a while longer. P.S. There are 2 or 3 more updates tonight. End of chapter. Chapter 537. After Wang Feng left the 2 of them, he found a quiet place where no one was around and took off his mask. He revealed a face that was as bright as the stars. His eyes seemed to contain the mysteries of the universe. If anyone was here, they would be deeply attracted to him. I could upgrade 2 of my soul rings to a 100,000-year soul ring. Wang Feng muttered to himself. The system's additional rewards are all about increasing the age of my soul rings. Does it want me to cultivate to become a god? This reward is comparable to the top-tier god exam, right? However, 20,000 years isn't much. After thinking for a while, Wang Feng decided to upgrade the 90,000-year soul ring from the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth to a 110,000-year soul ring. This was because Wang Feng felt that the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth would be more useful. A scarlet soul ring rose from Wang Feng's body. At this point, Wang Feng finally had his first 100,000-year soul ring. Although it was only his first 100,000-year soul ring, it was a huge improvement for Wang Feng. Even for a titled Douluo, a 100,000-year soul ring's improvement was huge. Just the pressure that a 100,000-year soul ring brought to a soul master was not something that ordinary soul rings could compare to. Secondly, he had 2 soul skills. After the Ice Dragon Whale soul ring was upgraded to a 100,000-year soul ring, Wang Feng also obtained the second soul skill of this soul ring. It was a rather special soul skill. To be precise, it was a passive soul skill. All enemies who attacked him would be spiritually sealed for 5 seconds. As long as he changed his Cauldron of Heaven and Earth, this ability would automatically take effect. This soul skill seems to be quite strong. Wang Feng looked at his jade-like skin and the soul beast that had turned into an ice sculpture because it had attacked him. He was stunned. This soul skill might even be effective in Hell Road, because it did not require soul power to activate. The cauldron of heaven and earth would automatically appear when he activated it. If he had this soul skill before, he would have been able to cross Hell Road very quickly. Even the final mirror image would have been easily dealt with. Spiritual Seal was a very strong soul skill from 100,000-year soul bone. Even if some soul skills were immune to control-type soul skills, it was difficult to be immune to Spiritual Seal. Although 5 seconds was fixed, 5 seconds was enough to determine the outcome of the battle for Wang Feng. If he added the mysterious underworld armor in the future, any titled Dalu who dared to attack him would be spiritually sealed, his defenses weakened, and he would be able to kill them like chopping vegetables. All the enemies who attacked him would die. Let's call it Ice Reversal. Wang Feng thought for a moment and came up with a name. Other than the addition of a new soul skill, the 20,000-year soul ring also increased Wang Feng's rank by 1, bringing him to rank 58. It's been more than 4 years, but I've only reached level 10. Wang Feng felt a little helpless. It's a little slow. Fortunately, my cultivation speed hasn't slowed down yet. This was Wang Feng's only guarantee. Wang Feng had been pondering about a name for his current body. After thinking about it for a long time, Wang Feng couldn't think of a good name until just now. Dustless glass body. Wang Feng pondered. His words were simple and unadorned, and there were no suffixes like saintly physique, Taoist physique, or divine physique. After pondering for a while, Wang Feng retrieved an ancient piece of wood from his soul tool. This ancient tree should have the former secret word, right? Wang Feng looked at the ancient tree. Its body was dark brown, and it gave off an ancient and desolate aura. But there's nothing on it? Wang Feng looked at him for a long time. After looking at Gumu for a long time, he still couldn't figure out anything. What about the front secret? Do I have to figure it out on my own? The material of this ancient tree is probably very high. It's not something the Douluo all world's materials can compare to. It should be some kind of high-grade material from the shrouding sky world, right? Wang Feng couldn't help but think to himself. After pondering for a long time, Wang Feng still couldn't figure out a single word from this ancient tree. His mind was still a little confused. Is it because of the first half? Wang Feng thought for a while. There was only one half of this ancient tree. Perhaps the system had to give him the other half to piece together before he could use it. It was also possible that he needed to comprehend the first half of the secret of the front word on his own in order to comprehend the first half. At this moment, Wang Feng suddenly thought of something. He kept the ancient tree and put on his mask again. A cold smile flashed across his face. Interesting. There's a titled Dalu chasing after me. Wang Feng was astonished. After he left, he didn't relax at all. He had considered the possibility that there might be a titled Dalu beside Hulaina after she walked out of Hell's Road. Hence, he didn't relax and left very quickly. But he didn't expect there to be one. However, Wang Feng wasn't afraid of a titled Dalu now. Of course, if it was someone as powerful as Bibidin's 1,000 Dao flow, Wang Feng wouldn't be able to defeat him. He could only run. However, if it was a rank 92 or a 93 Douluo, he might be able to kill him instantly. But that would also expose his identity. Furthermore, if it was a rank 95 transcendent Douluo, it would be more troublesome. After all, there was a huge difference between each rank. When Wang Feng sensed the presence of this titled Dalu, a hoarse laugh rang out. Kiki, what a white-clothed Grim Reaper. You actually sense me in advance? It seems like you're at least a soul Dalu. Hearing this voice, Wang Feng knew who it was. It was the Ghost Dalu. The Ghost Dalu is here. It seems like the Chrysanthemum Dalu is here too. But why do they want to kill me? Wang Feng was bewildered. He was sure that he hadn't exposed his identity. The other party also addressed him as the white-clothed Grim Reaper, and not 911. This meant that the other party didn't see through his identity. Then, could it be Bibidin's order? She seems to be one of the 2 Grim Reapers in the City of Massacre. She's also Hulaina's backer. Bibidon must have been to the City of Massacre and seen my identity as the white-clothed Grim Reaper. She realized that I was too strong, so she wanted to kill me? Wang Feng couldn't help but laugh. She didn't see through my identity, and she wanted to kill me directly? She should have tried to recruit me first. Can't she make a move after I rejected her? Can't she give me some face? Furthermore, she chose the time when I was walking out of Hell's Road, when my soul power and spirit were both depleted. How sinister. However, even if this was the case, this BB Dawn was a little ambitious. She must have guessed my personality from what happened in the City of Massacre. I'm not the kind of person who would submit to other organizations easily. The white-clothed Grim Reaper even rejected the King of Massacre's recruitment in the City of Massacre. Such a person wouldn't join other organizations. Furthermore, he was too strong, and his loyalty wasn't high. Wouldn't it be better to kill him directly when he was walking out of Hell's Road? This was probably what BB Dong was thinking. Tang Sin was probably protected by Tang Hao, so the Chrysanthemum Daluo and the Ghost Daluo didn't dare to go. Wang Feng's mind was like lightning as all these thoughts flashed through his mind. He clearly understood why the Ghost Daluo would appear here. Wait, Martial Soul Hall. At this moment, something flashed through Wang Feng's mind. But in the next moment, a ghostly figure suddenly appeared in the distance. It was the Ghost Daluo's ghostly figure. In a chapter. Chapter 538. Blood Patterns Activate. Wang Feng's lips curled into a smile as he saw this. He seemed to have thought of something. He still didn't use any other abilities. Instead, he used the power of his Dark Angel's blood patterns. At the same time, he activated his original Sin's domain. However, Wang Feng didn't use his Dark Martial Soul to possess his body. His innate domain and blood patterns didn't require a martial soul to possess his body. Otherwise, his blue-silver grass would have appeared when Tang San activated his blue-silver domain. Against a rank 95 Transcendent Daluo, Wang Feng wouldn't be so arrogant as to only use his first and second gears, especially against an agility-type titled Daluo like the Ghost Daluo. Innate domain. The Ghost Daluo's astonished voice could be heard from afar. Even he didn't have a domain. Although a titled Daluo's ninth soul skill could be a domain, not all of them had one. It wasn't hard to imagine how rare a domain was. Following this, a cold snort could be heard. Following this, Wang Feng sensed that the Ghost Daluo's aura had disappeared. Martial soul, true body? Wang Feng was a little shocked. He's become faster too. The Ghost Daluo's martial soul was the Phantom. Such a special martial soul had the ability to conceal one's aura. After all, the Ghost Daluo was a transcendent Daluo. With his original Sin's domain, he would definitely be affected, but it wouldn't be fatal. After activating his martial soul true body, even he couldn't detect it. The difference in soul power was too great, and his spiritual power hadn't fully recovered. He could only say that he had mostly recovered. Soul skill, Ghostly Shadow God Binding Silk. A ghost-like sound rang out, and countless black threads of light suddenly appeared in the air. They were like infrared rays. They were densely packed and intertwined in midair. Following this, they started to shrink towards Wang Feng. Following this, a figure charged into Wang Feng's original Sin's domain. He's here. Wang Fengxin was a little shocked. The original Sin's domain covered about 100 meters. Wang Feng couldn't sense his opponent outside. However, Wang Feng could sense him very clearly inside the original Sin's domain. He was very fast. Compared to Wang Feng's 6 blood patterns, he wasn't inferior at all. In fact, he was even faster. In a battle of such a level, the mysterious underworld spike was very useful. Wang Feng didn't want to expose his mysterious underworld armor. The Ghost Shadow Douluo was indeed very strong. Wang Fengxin said. He immediately activated his martial soul true body after knowing that Wang Fengxin had detected his presence. However, Wang Feng did not intend to use the other 4 forms of the chaotic green lotus. Forget about the Pangu axe. What if the Chrysanthemum Daluo showed up as well? If he was smart enough to run back and report to the Martial Spirit Palace, it would be impossible for him to cultivate peacefully in the future. Moreover, Wang Feng had another plan. Hence, he was only using the power of his blood patterns, his original Sin's domain, and his cauldron of heaven and earth to exchange blows with this ghost Douluo. Because these abilities were something that Nine Open had never used before, but they were still very powerful. Wang Feng snorted softly and dodged the black silks with ease. However, the black threads of light seemed to have a tracking effect. It was a tracking-type soul skill. It chased after Wang Feng and continued entangling him. A cold wind flashed by, and a ghostly figure suddenly appeared behind Wang Feng. Soul skill, Ghost Sex Shadow Spinning Pill. The ghost Douluo did not get close to Wang Feng. Black light gathered in his hand, and a black ball of light that resembled a raisin gan flew towards Wang Feng. Wang Feng, what soul skill is this? Kamehameha? Raisin gan? The black ball of light contained immense strength, but Wang Feng was not afraid. His torso shone brightly, and a streak of dazzling, icy light shot towards the black ball of light. When the two collided, the black ball of light was immediately frozen. It had become an ice ball in front of Wang Feng. The ghost Douluo was stunned when he saw this. What soul skill is this? Is it so strong? It can seal an energy ball formed from a soul skill? What a joke. It can even seal the myriad spirit ice heart, which has been formed for hundreds of thousands of years. How can it not seal a ball of light? Here, take it back. Wang Feng looked at the ice ball in front of him and kicked it towards the ghost Douluo. Explode. An icy light flashed, and the ice ball landed in front of the ghost Douluo. Wang Feng could remove the ice seal from his spirit seal, soul skill. Just like the ice flame, Furious Lotus, he could control it at all times. The black ball of light suddenly exploded, and the ghost Douluo reacted quickly. He disappeared from where he was like a gust of wind. A huge explosion sounded. No matter how fast the ghost Douluo reacted, he did not teleport. He was still engulfed by the shock waves from the explosion. He's not hurt. Wang Feng was a little surprised as he looked at the ghost Douluo. The black ball of light's explosion was not weak. The ghost Douluo's 50,000-year soul skill was not simple. It was extremely damaging, and it could also damage a soul master's spirit. It was a type of mixed attack. Damage immunity? Wang Feng furrowed his brow. He realized that the black fog around the ghost Douluo's body did not make him seem real. He was illusory. Most illusory bodies could be immune to some damage. It was very troublesome. Only spiritual attacks were the most effective. The ghost Douluo's martial soul true body had a certain degree of damage immunity. Wang Feng laughed coldly when he saw this. He quickly moved to avoid the black threads behind him. So what if he's immune to damage? Kid, you're quite strong. You must have hidden your soul power rank, right? Your soul power rank should be at least that of a soul Douluo. Otherwise, a rank 50 soul master shouldn't have been able to unleash that icy light earlier. How old is your torso soul bone? It's at least 70,000 years old, right? The ghost Douluo's voice sounded from all directions. Furthermore, you're only slightly slower than me. You also have an innate domain. When I entered your domain, my spiritual power was quickly depleted. I was attacked by 6 types of frightening spiritual attacks. This is not an innate domain that an ordinary soul master can unleash. I don't know how much soul power it consumes every second. It was hard to imagine that the white-clothed death god was so strong. In an instant, the white-clothed death god seemed to have unleashed 10 times his strength. His frightening aura, innate domain, and mysterious soul bone soul skills. The ghost Douluo was astonished. However, it was impossible for him to escape death. A pitch-black soul ring shone from his body. Following this, the ghost Douluo's speed increased by several times. It was as if he had teleported. Soul skill, rainbow, ghostly shadows. When he saw this, Wang Fengxin was shocked. Although he was no longer the same person he was when he was attacked by the ghost Douluo and the chrysanthemum Douluo, he was still astonished when he saw the ghost Douluo's true abilities. These tidal Douluo are quite capable. Even in his domain, the ghost Douluo was still able to unleash such speed. Soul skill, myriad ghost slash. Low murmurs sounded from all directions. This was a powerful close combat soul skill. It was also the ghost Douluo's 6th soul skill. In a chapter. Chapter 539. It could absorb the power of darkness, store it, and unleash it in an instant. At the same time, it was a special spiritual attack. When it attacked the enemy, it would split into hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of ghostly shadows that would tear the enemy's body apart. It was a one-hit kill. A huge black light suddenly blasted towards Wang Feng's chest. At this moment, Wang Feng turned his palm. Cauldron of heaven and earth. An ancient cauldron suddenly appeared in the center of Wang Feng's palm. The blood-red light was so blinding that it hurt. 100,000-year soul ring? 1. The ghost Douluo's eyes were almost blinded by the scarlet light as he was in the midst of his attacks. Before he could think, his attack had already landed on Wang Feng's chest. However, at this moment, he didn't see the attack of 10,000 ghostly shadows. Instead, his opponent's skin suddenly turned ice cold. At the moment when the attack was about to hit him, crack, 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 in the blink of an eye, the huge black light in his hand was frozen. His entire body was also frozen. He was immune to damage. Tisk. Wang Feng looked at the frozen ghost Douluo and couldn't help but laugh. A passive soul skill like ice reflection was indeed very strong. Actually, Wang Feng had also suffered a portion of the damage, but an instant cast passive soul skill like ice reflection was simply too fast. When his opponent touched him, he was spirit sealed. He didn't even have time to deal any damage. 5 seconds. Wang Feng grabbed his arm. The ghost Douluo was spirit sealed. Even if he was in his martial soul true body state, he wouldn't be immune to any damage. Wang Feng guessed that there was a certain damage amplification effect. This was because spirit-sealed soul skills could harm a soul master spirit. It seemed like they could even freeze one's consciousness. 5 seconds. Even if I can't kill you, I can still cripple you. Wang Feng grinned. He clenched his fists and punched the frozen ghost Douluo. The strength of this punch penetrated the ice and penetrated the ghost Douluo's body. Following this boom, 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 Wang Feng punched the frozen ghost Douluo over and over again, and Wang Feng punched the frozen ghost Douluo. In his current state, each of his punches was very powerful. The ghost Douluo wasn't a defense-type soul master. His defensive abilities weren't very strong. In fact, they were very weak. Every punch landed squarely on the ice sculpture, but they didn't break the spirit-sealing soul skill. Instead, they passed through the ice and struck the ghost Douluo. Every second, Wang Feng punched at least 10 times. Would this ghost Douluo be beaten to death in 5 seconds? Wang Feng was currently in second gear and had a 10-fold increase in strength with the addition of the blood mark. Because the 7th blood mark had not been fully activated, the absorption of the killing god domain had yet to display its true effect. One had to know that the current deified soul skill could only increase all attributes by 5 times, while the soul-devouring blood wings could increase all attributes by 2 times and increase attack power by 3 times. It was similar to the power of activating 6 blood tattoos. Of course, the deified soul and the soul-devouring blood wings had other abilities, and they couldn't be compared with just a multiplier. However, Wang Feng's current physical strength was stronger than that of a normal titled Douluo. However, Wang Feng's mental power was being drained by a large amount every second. This was also the side effect of activating the blood mark. Meanwhile, the Douluo and Hulaina were rushing over at top speed. The energy waves over there are very strong. The singular velvet sky connecting chrysanthemum in the Douluo's hand shone faintly as he sensed the energy waves around them. It should be over there. The energy waves are very intense. I'm afraid the battle is about to end. Looking at the time, it's not easy for the white-clothed death god to withstand the old ghost attacks for so long. After hearing this, Hulaina's body trembled slightly. The two of them rushed forward for a while more. Suddenly, a series of muffled groans could be heard. This sound was similar to the sound of a fist hitting an extremely hard object. Furthermore, it was a solid object. It should be the old ghost's 8th soul skill, the 72 strikes of the earth fiend ghostly shadow. The Douluo was astonished. I didn't expect the old ghost to use such a combo. This white-clothed death god is not simple. Such continuous attacks will often cause a huge sound. In just a few seconds, he can unleash 72 consecutive attacks with all his strength. He can instantly kill his enemy. I've rarely seen old Ghost use this move. This white-clothed death god seems to be quite strong. Girl, you might not be able to survive. Although he saved your life in Hell's Road, we have no choice but to obey the Pope's orders. After hearing this, Hulaina's face turned pale. A look of misery appeared in her eyes. She was very clear about the Ghost Elder's abilities. There were only a few transcendent Douluo in the Martial Soul Hall. Although they had just reached rank 95 and became transcendent Douluo, they were still not someone Wang Wu could compare to. No, for some reason, Hulaina felt a little pain in her heart. How can he die like this? After speaking, Hulaina took the lead and rushed forward. The Jew Douluo shook his head. He thought to himself, don't tell me this girl has fallen for the white-clothed death god in Hell's Road. However, that white-clothed death god is indeed very strong. For example, a move like the 72 strikes of the Earth Fiend Ghostly Shadow can only be used after activating his martial soul true body. To be able to force the old ghost to use such a powerful soul skill is enough to prove at this moment. Boom! A loud explosion could be heard all of a sudden. This is the final attack. The Jew Douluo was astonished. When this final attack landed, the enemy would be dismembered into 70 pieces. His entire body would explode, and he would die instantly. At the same time, there would be a loud boom. Normal title Douluo would not be able to take all of this attack head-on. This white-clothed death god is a little too strong. He can actually force the old ghost to use all of this move. It's probably not a question of whether he can survive. Even his corpse will be gone. As he thought till here, the Jew Douluo sighed again. After this, he furrowed his brow. Something doesn't seem right. Why is the old ghost's aura so weak? Could it be that he expended a lot of energy after using this soul skill just now? It should be. I haven't seen him use it for a long time. He must be very familiar with it. Let me take a look. As he thought, the Jew Douluo flew forward. In just a few blinks of an eye, he arrived at the battlefield. Hulaina had already arrived, but she was still in a daze. This girl must have lost her mind, right? The Jew Douluo sighed in his heart. He walked to Hulaina's side and comforted her. Girl, don't be sad. There are countless heroes in this world. Don't be too sad because of the white-clothed death god. You can use this opportunity to train your character. However, Hulaina did not speak. Her entire body was trembling. No one knew what she had seen. Elder Jew, Hulaina suddenly pointed in front of her and was in a daze. What's wrong? Elder Jew was puzzled. That's a black shadow lying on the ground. He's bleeding profusely. Is that Elder Ghost? Hulaina muttered as she pointed in front of her. Elder Jew was immediately stunned when she heard this. She quickly looked over and was completely stunned when she saw the person in front of her. P.S. It's a new week, please vote. Hey, end of this chapter. Chapter 540. Countless densely packed craters appeared on the open ground in front of them. It was unknown how heavy the bombardment was. At the same time, in the distance, Elder Jew finally saw her good friend. It was exactly as Hulaina had said. Old bastard. Elder Jew's sharp voice suddenly rang out. The two of them had been friends for decades, and this kind of friendship was even deeper than family. When he saw that his old friend was severely injured and half dead, he couldn't care less about the huge disparity between them. The singular velvet sky, connecting chrysanthemum in his hand, suddenly released streaks of light that landed on Gue Douluo's body. His singular velvet heaven connecting chrysanthemum also possessed a certain degree of healing power, but it wasn't very powerful. After all, it was an immortal herb, martial soul. A faint orange light descended, and the chrysanthemum Douluo quickly rushed over to the ghost Douluo's side. After being healed, Gue Douluo's aura became a lot better. What happened to you? The chrysanthemum Douluo asked in a trembling voice. He really could not understand. With old ghost strength, how could he be injured to such an extent? Could it be a rank 96 or 97 transcendent Douluo? but shouldn't be that bad. Moreover, after Old Ghost possessed his martial soul true body, he was extremely immune to damage. With his speed, it was impossible for him to be injured so easily, let alone now. Unless he was restrained. Old Chrysanthemum, you're here. Let me tell you, this white-clothed reaper looks a little strong. Douluo's voice could be heard. He wasn't dead yet, but his entire body felt as if it had been crushed. It was impossible for him to recover his combat ability in a short time. Even though Wang Feng's punches landed on Douluo's flesh, Douluo was a tidal Douluo after all, and the strength of each punch was significantly reduced through the ice. If it weren't for the fact that his spirit was sealed, each and every one of his punches would have been able to inflict significant damage on Douluo. Beating you up like this, you call that a little strong? No, that's impossible. No matter how strong he is, how could he injure you to this extent? Brilliant light abruptly erupted from the singular velvet sky, chrysanthemum in the Jew Douluo's hand, forming a yellow light barrier that enshrouded the two of them as they stared intently at the white-robed Grim Reaper in the distance. The two of them didn't know much about this white-clothed Reaper because the other party had shown very little in the Massacre City. They weren't clear about Hell Road's situation either. Hulaina, on the other hand, knew a little about it, but she did not have the time to tell them. Moreover, Hulaina had never seen Wang Feng use the Heaven and Earth Cauldron, not to mention the Ice Reflection passive soul skill that he had just obtained. It was impossible for them to know about these abilities. That brat has a very strong soul skill. When I attack him, he will be instantly frozen into an ice cube. Even his soul power and consciousness will be frozen. It's very terrifying, Douluo whispered. Furthermore, he has 100,000 years soul ring. As soon as the words were spoken, the chrysanthemum Douluo was instantly astonished. Hulaina was also shocked. 100,000 year soul ring on the entire continent. There were only a handful of titled Douluo with 100,000 year soul ring. Almost no one below the titled Douluo level had 100,000 year soul ring. 100,000 year soul ring was unimaginable to a soul master. No wonder. The chrysanthemum snapped out of his daze as he appraised the white-robed death god with a grim expression. It seemed like he had underestimated the other party. Don't attack him. Douluo continued. His icebound soul skill is only effective when the attack touches him. As long as we don't attack him directly, he'll be fine. That was indeed the case. Wang Feng's Ice Reflection soul skill was only effective when Wang Feng was attacked directly. Although this passive soul skill was very strong, it wasn't invincible. There were many powerful long-range attacks and control-type soul skills that could harm Wang Feng. However, it was very effective against many close combat soul masters. He also has a very strong torso soul bone. His soul skill is also very strong. It can freeze many long-range energy attacks. We have to be careful. However, that soul skill consumes a lot of energy. Old Jew, he shouldn't have much soul power left. Douluo's voice was hoarse as he said, either we retreat first, or we follow orders and destroy him. You decide. After he finished speaking, Douluo started to recover. On the other side, Hulaina was still in a state of shock. When she heard Douluo's words, she hurriedly tried to dissuade him. Elder Jew, let's retreat first. The white-robed death god is so strong. If he has any other powerful abilities hidden, Hulaina had never expected the white-robed death god to be so strong after walking out of Hell's path. He, who was able to use soul skills, could even defeat Elder Ghost. If Elder Jew had come a little later, Elder Gui would have been killed. However, as the Pope's disciple, Hulaina couldn't persuade Elder Jew to give up. That would be going against her teacher's orders. To Hulaina, that was very difficult. However, she could persuade Elder Jew to retreat now, or choose another way to persuade him to surrender. Hulaina understood the white-robed death god a little. If the two of them hadn't fought, she might have been able to persuade him. However, now that they had fought, the white-robed death god probably wouldn't join the martial soul hall anymore. It would be fortunate if they didn't become enemies in the future. As she thought about this, Hulaina felt a little sad. The Jew Douluo was also thinking. Hulaina's words made some sense. His previous misjudgment had led to the current situation. However, the Jew Douluo was a little indignant. His good brother had been beaten to such a state. Was he going to leave just like that? This kid has expended so much energy. If I attack, even if he still has some trump cards, he can't possibly defeat another titled Douluo with them. But what if it's really possible? After all, he defeated Elder Gue. The chrysanthemum Douluo was caught between a rock and a hard place. Hurry up and leave. At this moment, Hulaina looked at Wang Feng in the distance and gave him a look. However, Wang Feng didn't leave. He only looked at the Jew Douluo. He had expended a lot of energy. It was mainly his spiritual power that had been depleted. When he fought the ghost Douluo, he had used soul skills consecutively, and his soul power had been greatly depleted. After all, he had just come out from Hell's Road and hadn't fully recovered. Wang Feng had used his Golden Lotus's abilities after he left Hulaina and Tang San. However, he hadn't recovered so quickly. His soul power and spiritual power were both very powerful now. It was impossible for him to recover so quickly. Furthermore, he had activated the power of his blood patterns. However, it wouldn't be difficult for him to defeat the Jew Douluo. This was because he hadn't used his cauldron of heaven and earth's divine light. Once he used it, it would be very easy for him to defeat the Jew Douluo. Even if the divine light couldn't last for long, it would be enough for Wang Feng to defeat the Jew Douluo. However, Wang Feng had other thoughts. At this moment, Wang Feng suddenly spoke. Is this how the Martial Soul Hall does things? Let me think. I don't think I've offended any of you, right? Is this woman also from the Martial Soul Hall? In terms of morality, I've saved her several times in the city of Massacre and Hell's Road. After hearing this, Hulaina lowered her head in shame. As the middleman, she felt very uncomfortable. On one side, it was her master's orders. On the other side, it was her benefactor who had saved her several times. In a chapter. Chapter 541. The chrysanthemum Douluo's eyes flashed coldly. As Bibidan's confidant, he naturally knew how ruthless the Pope was. The fact that he had sent them to assassinate Tang San and Zhou Yikai was the best proof. He didn't even think of recruiting them. The best choice was to kill them directly. In addition, the Pope already had a monstrous plan in the past 5 years. Naturally, he wouldn't allow highly threatening powerhouses to appear. As for saving Hulaina, what did that have to do with anything? They didn't know, so they couldn't talk about morality. Wang Wu, Hulaina opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but she realized that she couldn't say a word. You've really disappointed me. Wang Feng shook his head and said, I thought that the Martial Spirit Hall would at least try to recruit me. I didn't expect you to attack me directly. That chrysanthemum Martial Soul Douluo, do you want to kill me too? If you want to kill me, then do it quickly. Stop talking nonsense. His voice was cold, but his words were straightforward. Recruit? The chrysanthemum Douluo looked at the white-clothed death god and snorted coldly. Will someone like you be recruited? Now that he saw the white-clothed death god's strength, the chrysanthemum Douluo was even more convinced of the Pope's wisdom. Such a person would never submit to anyone. However, how would you know if you don't try? At this moment, the white-clothed death god's voice slowly sounded. I've been alone my whole life. Why don't you know that I, Wang Wu, don't want to find a powerful force to rely on? After speaking, the white-clothed death god suddenly laughed a few times. He seemed to be mocking himself, sad, and a little lonely. He vividly portrayed the image of a peerless powerhouse who had been wandering his whole life and was extremely lonely. Hearing this, the three of them were all stunned. Hulaina was the most touched. She looked at the white-clothed death god and felt a little sad in her heart. Was he such a person? I was born unable to feel emotions. I don't know joy, I don't know sorrow, and I don't have any relatives. That's why I came to the capital of slaughter. I want to use the slaughter chi here to let me feel emotions, even if it's just killing intent. The white-robed reaper shook his head and said, but the capital of slaughter still can't bring me any emotions. All the killing intent and chaos here are useless to me except for cultivation. My goal, since I was born, is to travel to every corner of the continent and feel the emotions of this world. On the way here, I have heard about how powerful your martial spirit palace is. I thought that if I couldn't feel any emotion in Slaughter City, I would go to your martial spirit palace and see if I could join you to train myself. However, with that said, the white-robed death god looked at the chrysanthemum Douluo, but they could all feel a sense of disappointment. The chrysanthemum Douluo. Douluo. It was a misunderstanding. Cold sweat began to pour down the chrysanthemum Douluo's face. Could it be that the Pope had misjudged him? Was he born unable to feel emotions? No wonder he was always so cold and distant. Was that really the case? Hulaina was also stunned, but after thinking about it carefully, she believed it. No wonder Wang Wu didn't have any killing intent after staying in the capital of slaughter for 2 years. Elder Chrysanthemum. What he said is very likely to be true. Hulaina said in a low voice. He has been in the city of slaughter for more than 2 years, and the number of people he has killed is more than me and the other person combined. However, there is not a single trace of killing intent on his body. You should be able to sense his aura, right? It's so pure. Look, even your singular velvet sky, connecting chrysanthemum, is facing him. Douluo. His constitution might be very special. He can't feel emotions since he was born. It seems like he uses this to cultivate. Hulaina continued. I think this is the reason why he is so strong. Although he can absorb all kinds of emotions to cultivate, he has lost the ability to feel emotions. That's why he is like that. Teacher, and all of you might have misunderstood him. After hearing Hulaina's words, the chrysanthemum Douluo started to believe her. In the Douluo world, there are all kinds of strange martial souls. It wasn't impossible for martial souls to absorb emotions to cultivate. After all, in the simulated cultivation environment, there was also a suitable environment for martial souls. So, he can actually join our martial soul hall. Hulaina suddenly said excitedly, It's true. Let's leave first and discuss with teacher. The chrysanthemum Douluo looked at Wang Feng in silence. He looked at Wang Feng and said doubtfully, Do you really want to join the martial soul hall? Of course. Wang Feng continued to bluff, but it's impossible now. You have already attacked me. Although I can't feel emotions, it's impossible for me to kill you. However, it is impossible for them to kill me. The martial spirit palace and I will be enemies from now on. Make your move. After saying that, a strong aura surged from Wang Feng's body. At this moment, wait, Guidoa hurriedly shouted. What happened just now has nothing to do with the martial soul hall. Actually, our Pope asked us to recruit you. He didn't ask us to attack you. But I don't think you are strong enough to be recruited by the martial soul hall. That's why I attacked you. What happened just now definitely has nothing to do with the martial soul hall. Hearing this, Hulaina was shocked and immediately reacted. Elder Ju, who was at the side, didn't even hesitate and said, That's true. The two of us want to test you. That's why we did that. The martial spirit palace absolutely doesn't want to kill you. His Majesty the Pope has ordered us to recruit you at all costs. The battle just now was decided by the two of us. Wang Fengxin smiled. These two guys are really loyal to the martial soul hall. They are indeed titled nurtured by the martial soul hall. To think that they would even say such words in an attempt to recruit the white-clothed Grim Reaper. They wanted to push all the blame onto themselves. Even the BB Don was not involved. Their reaction was fast. Is that so? Wang Feng said calmly. Of course. The two of us are willing to apologize for our rash actions just now. If possible, we can make amends. The chrysanthemum Douluo said slowly. The other party's strength was not inferior to a titled Douluo. If they could recruit him, it would be a great help to the martial soul hall. Hulaina, who was at the side, was happy but also a little confused. It was clearly Wang Wu who beat Elder Ghost until he was half dead. How did it turn into two elders apologizing to Wang Wu? If that's the case, the martial soul hall is still okay. How about this? Wang Feng continued. The two of you kneel down and kowtow to me. Then, I won't pursue the matter. Then, I will join the martial soul hall. How about that?" After he finished speaking, the Jew Douluo and Gue Douluo were furious. Then, they looked at the white-clothed death god gloomily. "You want us, titled Douluo, to kneel down and kowtow to you? You are too arrogant. F***CK. I didn't expect to experience the feeling of being a villain. It feels so good. No wonder there are always villains in the novel." Wang Fengxin was laughing in his heart. "You." The Jew Douluo looked at Wang Feng and suspected that he was fooling them. As he thought of this, the singular velvet sky connecting chrysanthemum in his hand shone brightly. It seemed like he was about to attack, but he was stopped by the Gue Douluo. "It's not a problem for you to kneel down and apologize," the Gue Douluo said slowly. "With your strength, you're not inferior to a titled Douluo. I have nothing to say about my defeat. But what if you are fooling us? How can you prove that you will join the martial soul hall after we kneel down and kowtow to you?" The Gue Douluo was speaking the truth. End of chapter. Chapter 542. Isn't that simple? The white-clothed death god laughed. "I'll go to the pontiff's palace directly and meet the pontiff. If I lie to you, I won't be able to walk out of the pontiff's palace, right?" Hearing this, the two of them were slightly stunned and looked at each other. This method is feasible. Even if the other party has 3 heads and 6 arms, he can't do anything to the pontiff's palace. Since that's the case, we'll talk about it after you go to the pontiff's palace. If you join us, we'll kneel down and apologize to you. The chrysanthemum Douluo said slowly. "All right, then we'll pay a deposit first. Kneel down first to show your sincerity." Wang Feng pointed at the two of them. "That shouldn't be a problem, right?" Their faces darkened. "Old chrysanthemum, I'm not feeling well. You do it. I'm a man. As the saying goes, a real man should kneel to heaven and earth and kneel to his parents." The ghost suddenly said seriously. F***CK. Old ghost, what do you mean?" The chrysanthemum Douluo was stunned. He cursed softly. "I'm not a man. Get the hell out of here. Kneel down yourself. It's embarrassing to be defeated. It's good that you kneel down." After speaking, the chrysanthemum Douluo kicked the ghost Douluo away. Hulaina looked at this scene in a daze. She felt a little weird. How had it become like this for no reason? It hasn't even been a while. Why are the two elders kneeling to the white-clothed death god? They even pushed each other. It was as if their friendship was broken. Hulaina looked at the white-clothed death god in the distance. He seemed to have changed the situation with just a few words. In the end, the ghost Douluo knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Wang Feng. "White-clothed death god, I've done what I said. I hope you'll do the same. Otherwise, you'll offend the martial spirit hall. When that happens, you'll be hunted down by the martial spirit hall." The ghost Douluo thought to himself. Seeing this, Hulaina felt a little suffocated. Elder Ghost was one of the top titled Douluo in the martial spirit hall. Other than the pontiff, who else could make him kneel? This is more difficult than killing him. I didn't expect Wang Wu to do this. It's unbelievable. Don't worry, I'll keep my word. Wang Feng smiled under the mask. Half a year later, I will go to the pontiff palace and officially join the martial spirit palace. What do you think? Half a year. That was enough. The chrysanthemum Douluo helped Gue Douluo to his feet and nodded slightly. If you don't show up after half a year, you'll be breaking your promise. At that time, our martial spirit palace will issue a bounty across the continent. The chrysanthemum Douluo slowly said. "No problem, then we'll part ways here. See you in 2 years." That title Douluo with the chrysanthemum martial soul. Wash your knees and kowtow properly when the time comes. Clean your head and make sure your voice is loud and clear. After saying that, Wang Feng turned around and left. His speed was very fast. In just a few moments, he disappeared from their line of sight. He should still be holding back. Fortunately, I didn't make a move just now. Seeing this, the chrysanthemum Douluo furrowed his brows and said, "How can this white-robed death god be so strong? His soul power rank shouldn't be high." Soul power ranks weren't a secret in Massacre City. Hulaina also knew that they were only around rank 50. His soul power rank is only around rank 50, but he's actually stronger than a soul Douluo. Douluo furrowed his brows and said, his soul power should be a little special. I don't know if it's because he can absorb emotions to cultivate. This person should still have a trump card that he hasn't revealed. You didn't have an advantage when you attacked him just now. The current situation should be the best outcome. Furthermore, I have a feeling that this white-robed death god will come to the pontiff's palace in half a year. He might really join us. When that time comes, he'll have contributed greatly to our martial spirit palace. The chrysanthemum Dalu nodded slightly. He had the same feeling too. This white-robed death god's actions were both righteous and evil. There was no pattern, but he gave off a feeling of certainty. Half a year was just enough time for them to report back to the pontiff and investigate this white-robed death god's background. They could make preparations when the time came. He is really going to join the martial spirit palace? Hulaina looked at the disappearing figure in the distance. Her heart started to beat faster. It seemed like everything was going according to her plan. Hulaina was a little excited. She suddenly felt very happy. A smile flashed across Wang Feng's face. Although it was just a bluff, it was also true. When he learned that Dalu came to attack him, Wang Feng had a shocking idea in his mind. Infiltrate the martial spirit palace. That's right. Wang Feng planned to be a spy. Wang Feng perfectly fit the conditions. He was the white-robed death god in the city of Massacre. He was born unable to feel emotions. He entered the city of Massacre just to feel the killing intent. He saved Bibidan's disciple, Hulaina, twice. He was very strong and comparable to a titled Douluo. Even if the martial spirit palace investigated, they could only find out that the white-robed death god came from the extreme north at most. They couldn't find out anything else. Wang Feng didn't show any abilities related to 9-1. The Dark Angel martial spirit was secretly cultivated in the city of Massacre. The original Sin domain and the power of the blood traces were cultivated in the past 2 years. Outside the city of Massacre, he had never been possessed by a martial spirit. He couldn't sense it just by cultivating the Qian Rinxue and the Thousand Dao flow. Furthermore, after the Dark Angel martial spirit was fully cultivated, the Thousand Dao flow and the Qian Rinxue couldn't be sensed anymore. The Universal Cauldron, the 100,000-year soul ring, and the powerful torso soul bone were all obtained in the extreme north over the past 2 years. This was also one of the reasons why Wang Feng didn't show his other abilities just now. Thinking of this, Wang Feng suddenly remembered a famous saying. Do you know how I, Wang Feng, have spent the past 5 years? Bibidan, do you know? The martial spirit palace is mine. I, Wang Feng, said that even if a true god descends to the mortal world, I should be able to protect it. However, it's definitely impossible to secretly join the martial spirit palace to cause trouble. The current Bibidan, although he hasn't obtained the inheritance of a god, is also very powerful. Wang Feng needed to cultivate his spiritual power to an extremely high level. In this way, the skull's Shadowma's soul skill should be enough to prevent someone as powerful as Bibidan from discovering him. In fact, even if they discovered him, they wouldn't be able to recognize him as Wang Feng. As long as Wang Feng didn't reveal the abilities he used in the Pontiff's palace, they wouldn't suspect him at all. Of course, as a safeguard, he had to increase his spiritual power to strengthen the Shadowma's soul skill, so that even a rank 99 exceptional Dalu wouldn't be able to detect him. Another safeguard was naturally the soul-devouring Bloodwing's teleportation ability. If he was discovered, he could immediately teleport away. It was important to know that he was now rank 58 and had a 100,000-year soul ring. All of his soul skills were greatly enhanced. Compared to 4 years ago, when he first used teleportation in the Pontiff's palace, it was many times stronger. Wang Feng was even confident that if he teleported away now, even the Thousand Dao flow wouldn't be able to catch up to him. With these two safeguards, Wang Feng dared to say that as long as a true god didn't descend to the mortal world, it was basically impossible to expose him or kill him. In the next 6 months, I have to do some research. I have to learn the front's secret word. I have to raise my spiritual power to a new level. Half a year later, I will infiltrate the martial spirit palace. BB Dawn, tremble. P.S. There are 2 or 3 more updates tonight. Please count your votes in a chapter. Chapter 543. Wang Feng's idea seemed crazy and dangerous, but in fact, he was as steady as an old dog. There were many reasons for him to do so. Firstly, Wang Feng wanted to know how strong the martial spirit palace was and how different it was from the original work. In other words, he wanted to know how much his appearance had changed the martial spirit palace. The 2 extra titled Dalu were the best examples. Secondly, if he entered the martial spirit palace, Wang Feng could participate in many plans of the martial spirit palace. Even if he didn't participate, he would have the opportunity to know. Wang Feng remembered that in the original work, the 7 treasure glazed tile sect had been destroyed. But when and how it happened, Wang Feng didn't know the details of the plot. Similarly, there was also the matter of Deming and Erming. If Wang Feng succeeded in breaking into the inner circle of the martial spirit palace, he would surely know the news clearly. In this way, Wang Feng could solve the problem of the unknown plot and make many arrangements to predict the enemy's future. Otherwise, he would always be passive. He was really unhappy, so this time, Wang Feng planned to take the initiative to attack. He could even get close to the BB Dawn and estimate his strength and how he got the inheritance of the god. Can I get involved in this? And what gave Wang Feng the confidence to do so was the front's secret word. As long as Wang Feng could comprehend the secret of the front in this half year, he would definitely enter the martial spirit palace. If he couldn't comprehend it, then sorry, he would have to develop his strength. After thinking about this, in the next few days, Wang Feng found a secluded place and slowly comprehended the secret of the front in the ancient wood while planning for the future. However, a few days later, in a forest, I still can't comprehend this ancient wood. Is it wrong for me to open it? Wang Feng sat on a huge rock and looked at the ancient wood in his hand. His spirit power slowly enveloped the ancient wood, but he didn't find anything. He couldn't figure out. The secret of the front didn't appear. No matter how powerful and smart his dustless glass body was, it was useless. Could it be related to the spirit? Wang Feng suddenly thought. In the past 4 years, I have been maintaining a high intensity of cultivation. Even if I relaxed, my spirit was always tense. Cultivating alone was too lonely. Although the 2 years of slaughter in the capital of massacre and the cultivation of the blood tattoo didn't affect my mind and soul, it was still too lonely. However, it has always kept me in a state of high concentration. In addition, I've experienced too little, so I don't have enough comprehension. Is it still not enough to make the word Qian appear? To be precise, I've been cultivating and pretending for the past 10 years or so. It seems like I've experienced a lot, but in reality, it's very little. Thinking about it this way, Wang Feng understood a little. Although there was only half of the front secret word, it was a secret technique created by the great emperor of Shrouded Heaven World. It was extraordinary. Comprehending it was definitely not an easy task. Then let's go out for a walk. Wang Feng calculated the time and said, I can relax a bit and travel around the continent. I can also see what the Shrek 7 monsters have become, and Grandmaster and the others. Thinking up to this point, Wang Feng's thoughts were clear, and he immediately set off. On the way, Wang Feng suddenly wondered how the Martial Spirit Palace had dealt with what had happened 5 years ago. After all, both title Douluo were injured. This kind of thing definitely couldn't be made public. It was too shameful. However, a lot of people knew of 9-1 Open's great name. It could be said that none of the academies that participated in the competition didn't know the name of 9-1. 9-1 still won the championship. Even if the competition was in the Pope's palace, it was impossible to hide this kind of thing. Wang Feng hadn't inquired about these things in the past 4 years, and his mind wasn't on it. Now that he planned to go out for a walk, he felt a little curious. Because it was a trip, Wang Feng didn't have a fixed goal. He took out the map, took a branch, turned it gently, and went wherever it pointed. This time, Wang Feng casually changed his clothes, like an ordinary soul master, and integrated into this Douluo world. His first stop was an ordinary city, Heaven Do City's Balak main city. He had met it in the promotion competition. After his brain was tempered by the Red Lotus karmic fire, Wang Feng remembered it. In this city, Wang Feng inquired about the news from more than 4 years ago. The championship was still 9-1, but the Martial Spirit Palace claimed. After 9-1 won the competition, he tried his best and died. They also made an announcement to mourn 9-1's legendary experience, confirming his status and achievements. It was unprecedented in the history of the Soul Master world. After Wang Feng heard this news, he couldn't help but laugh. It seemed that the Martial Spirit Palace didn't talk nonsense in order to keep their face and not cause a commotion. Although the reason for his death was a little far-fetched, there weren't many people who knew the specific situation at that time. Although the Masters knew, they wouldn't make it public because the Martial Spirit Palace confirmed the achievement of 9-1 and even publicized the news that 9-1-1 was Wang Feng. In addition, Xiao Wu's identity was exposed at that time, so they wouldn't publicize the situation at that time. More than 4 years ago, when it was just announced, it could be said to have caused a huge uproar. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the entire continent was shocked. The Martial Spirit Palace's move was obviously to benefit the Masters Shrek Academy. One had to know that the Shrek team's reputation at that time was second only to 9-1-1. Among them, Wang Feng didn't appear much, but he still left a deep impression on everyone. However, the news that 9-1-1-1 was Wang Feng was simply shocking. This directly made the two academies famous all over the continent. One was Shrek Academy, because it was this academy that had cultivated the peerless genius 9-1-1-1. The other one was the Purple Star Academy, because Wang Feng was representing the Purple Star Academy with the identity of 9 openings. Therefore, after this news came out, countless young students flocked to these two academies, especially Shrek Academy. After hearing this news, Wang Feng found it quite interesting and sighed with emotion. Although I haven't been here for more than 4 years, my legend has been spreading everywhere during these 4 years. So far, many alchemists and soul masters believed that there was an inside story in the finals more than 4 years ago. 9-1-1-1's whereabouts were still unknown, and he didn't die of exhaustion, as the Martial Spirit Palace said. However, no one found 9-1-1-1 or Wang Feng either. Therefore, this kind of rumor was not reliable. Except for this news. Wang Feng stayed in this city for 2 days. Not for anything else, but because he met a very interesting person. This person was called Xiao Qinyu. The reason why he met him was very simple. At that time, Wang Feng was casually selling some rubbish obtained from the northernmost land in exchange for some gold coins at an auction. As a result, he heard an arrogant voice. Wang Feng? Of course I know him. You may not believe it, but 12 years ago, when he was 6 years old, he was my boss. You don't know, do you? Into this chapter. Chapter 544. At that time, he was already ridiculously strong. I was 11 years old at that time, a rank 12 soul warrior. He didn't even have a soul ring, but he could still beat me up. At first glance, I can tell that he is not an ordinary person. When Wang Feng heard this voice, he was stunned for a long time and thought in his heart, when did I accept a follower? Later, he thought about it and remembered. Then, there was a burst of laughter. You can brag as much as you want. Your boss is Wang Feng. My boss is 9-1. How could someone like you know someone like that back then? Ha! He is not here now. How can he brag? 9. One can't come out of the coffin to refute. You are a soul king who is not even rank 50, and you have the nerve to say that he is your boss. Such a follower, he wouldn't have accepted it back then, right? Wang Feng saw Xiao Qinyu's appearance at that time. 12 years had passed, and that guy was not even rank 50, only about rank 45. 23 years old, rank 45, in fact, was not bad. Among most ordinary soul masters, he was above average. He looked a little handsome. He married a beautiful little wife, and was now the city lord of Nodding City. He inherited his father's business. Time flew, and Wang Feng did not come out to meet the other party, but silently watched in the dark. For ordinary people, Xiao Qinyu was living a good life. He had a certain strength, and he married a beautiful wife in a remote city. Wang Feng watched for a while. Needless to say, this kid was living quite well. He just liked to brag to others when he had nothing to do, saying that he knew 9, 1, and Wang Feng. But no one believed it. Wang Feng remembered that when he was in Notting City, he was addicted to cultivation. At that time, in addition to sparring with Xiao San and Xiao Wu, he also sparred with Xiao Chenyu several times. Later, when this guy was promoted to an intermediate Soul Master Academy, he rarely contacted him. Not to mention that he left Notting City 5 years later. After sighing and observing for a while, Wang Feng left Balak City and then went to Soto City and visited the great Soul Arena of Soto City. He also went to the small village where the original Shrek Academy used to be. In Soto City, Wang Feng met Lao He and Ling Run, who he couldn't find back then. Old He and Ling Run had lost a limb each. Their strength had been greatly reduced, but they were still doing well. Wang Feng remembered that Si Rong had brought Lao He and Ling Run to Soto City to seek refuge with Qian Renshua, who had disguised himself. However, Blackie and Ling Run were much weaker than each other, so they settled down in Soto City. Only Si Rong was still with Qian Renshua. Old He is almost 40 years old. His son is already 15 or 16 years old. Wang Feng only watched from the shadows. These people were all part of his travels on the continent. Lingren has a family now. His wife is the girl that he used to earn money to support. She's studying in an advanced Soul Master Academy. Looks like nothing dramatic happened. They could be considered to be living a peaceful life. Wang Feng did not disturb him. He only watched for a while and then left. When they arrived at the small village outside of Soto City, they discovered that it had already become a small town. Maple Town. It was a name that surprised Wang Feng. Outside the town, Wang Feng saw an introduction on a signboard. 9-1 open once cultivated in my town for a year. Please don't miss it. F***CK. Wang Feng did not know what to say for a moment. He felt that the world had changed. Wang Feng remembered that the Shrek Academy had moved to Heavendo City a long time ago. It used to be the Blue Tyrant Academy. He did not expect that the place where Shrek first lived outside of Soto City had become a small town. Big brother, are you here to pay your respects to 9-1 Open too? At this moment, a little boy at the entrance of the town tugged at Wang Feng's clothes and pointed to a string of accessories hanging on his body. Do you want to buy some souvenirs? I have a few wooden carvings of 9-1 Open here. Look, this is how he looked when he was in Soto City's Great Soul Arena. This is how he looked when he was in Sylvis Great Soul Arena. And this is how he looked when he was fighting in Heavendo City's qualifiers. The little boy had a lot of accessories on him, but every one of them was carved vividly. They were Wang Feng's battle postures in various scenes, in the image of 9-1 Open in a black robe and a white mask. Some in Soto City, some in Sylvis City, some in the qualifiers, and even in the finals. It was his last battle against Tang San and the others in the finals. Wang Feng looked at them attentively and found that these carvings were very exquisite and detailed. There were even various forms of the mysterious underworld spike. It was almost the same as the figurines in his previous life. If you don't buy it now, there won't be any left later. This one sells very quickly, and it's a limited edition. The little boy chuckled. Wang Feng was stunned. Even a limited edition was produced? At this moment, many soul masters surrounded the little boy. After a while, all the accessories on his body were sold out. Look, big brother, they're all sold out. The little boy shrugged. It seemed that these figurines were especially popular. Wang Feng was a little dazed as he looked at the town. People came and went, and it was noisy. It was still morning. My F***king influence has become so big. Wang Feng felt a little strange. Even figurines are made. Is it true that when a person dies, everything becomes famous? Little friend, these figurines of yours. Oh no, these wooden carvings, who made them? Wang Feng asked. These wooden carvings were too exquisite. Furthermore, even that small town was built very beautifully. It was most likely not something that could be built by ordinary people, to be able to clearly depict his heroic appearance in the finals. This was definitely something that could only be drawn by someone who had seen it. This is a secret. I can't tell you. The little boy looked at Wang Feng with a vigilant face. I promise the owner of these wooden carvings that I will only be responsible for selling. At this moment, Wang Feng took out a bag of gold soul coins and put it in the little boy's hand. Ahem, this is negotiable. The little boy patted the bag and said with a straight face, "Hey, come here. Look at that. That pattern, you should understand it, right?" With that, the little boy pulled Wang Feng to the back of the standing sign and pointed at the pattern. It was the pattern of the 7 treasures glazed pagoda. Wang Feng, the original sign was at the back. So, this town was built by the 7 treasures glazed pagoda? Then these figurines were obviously carved by someone else. To be able to clearly depict his heroic appearance in battle, don't tell me it's you? Wang Feng was a little surprised. This place was the place where he had his first official confrontation with her. It was also here that he kicked her to the ground. He directly kicked out a sword Douluo. That was how the story came to be. Okay, big brother, I'm leaving. It's a pity for you. These limited edition wooden carvings only appear once every half a month. The little boy shook his head and said, "If you want to buy them next time, you have to wait half a month." Wang Feng was silent. End of this chapter. Chapter 545. Little brat, wait a minute. Wang Feng said angrily. "I also have a figurine here. Well, a wooden carving. Give this to the owner of these wooden carvings." After saying that, Wang Feng's palms sucked, and a small tree next to him directly shattered, turning into a bare wooden stick almost instantly. This wooden stick was slightly thick, and Wang Feng used his fingertip as a knife, flickering around this wooden stick like a light shadow. Swish! Swish! In just a moment, countless wood shavings flew from his fingertip, and in the blink of an eye, 2 lifelike figurines were formed. With Wang Feng's current strength and body, even if he had never learned carving, he could quickly master this skill when carving. If it was in his previous life, it would be impossible to master this skill without more than 10 years of practice. For Wang Feng, who now had the dustless glass body, it only took the time to brew a cup of tea. "Here, give these 2 to her." Wang Feng thought for a moment and said, "These 2 wooden carvings." One of them was a 6-ring soul emperor with a white robe and a black mask. At that time, only Zhu Zhuqing and Ning Rongrong were sensitive enough to guess his identity. Although he did not admit it at that time, the 2 of them only treated it as a little secret. The other one was a woman. It was the appearance of Ning Rongrong and Jin Lian after martial soul fusion. She was like a golden goddess, beautiful, noble, and holy. "Little brat, if you dare to sell these 2, I will sell you too." Wang Feng glared at the little boy. "Wow, what a beautiful sculpture. I think it looks familiar." "Don't worry, big brother." "Hey, big brother, where are you?" The little boy took the 2 wooden carvings and was very surprised. When he came back to his senses, he did not see the figure of the other party. He hurriedly ran into the town, walked into a pavilion in the center of the town, climbed the stairs to the top floor, opened the curtain, and shouted, "Sister Rongrong, just now I met a strange person outside. He did not buy the sculpture you made, but gave me 2 and asked me to give them to you." What a strange big brother in the pavilion. A woman was sitting on a wooden chair facing the oil fields outside the town. At this time, she was still seriously carving the unfinished wooden sculpture in her hand. Her back view was absolutely beautiful. Her beautiful long hair was incomparably smooth and soft, gently draped over half of her shoulders. She wore simple hair accessories on her head and wore a light pink dress. At this moment, if one looked closely, one could see the soft and beautiful outline of the woman's figure from behind. Hearing the little boy's words, the woman put down the carving knife in her hand, gently blew the wood on the wood shavings, revealing a new wooden sculpture. Then, she turned around, revealing her delicate and perfect facial features. Her eyes were smiling, and her noble temperament was captivating. "What? Want to take a look?" The little boy walked in front of the woman and handed the wooden carving to her. He chuckled and said, "There is one that looks very similar to you." Just as he finished speaking, he suddenly realized that the big sister who had just received the 2 wooden carvings seemed to be completely stunned. Then, his body began to tremble. That pair of beautiful eyes that were like limpid autumn waters actually had a little bit of tears. Patter. The woman looked at the two wooden carvings in a daze. You are still alive. You must still be alive. The woman looked at the two wooden sculptures in a daze, and her tears fell like rain. Wang Feng did not expect that in Soto City, the place where the Shrek Academy was built, the seven-treasure glazed tile sect would build a town. And it was called Feng Town. It was most likely done by Ning Rongrong. As for the purpose, Wang Feng could not explain it clearly. Recalling the wooden sculptures on the little boy's body, Wang Feng felt a little complicated. Past events passed by like smoke. Thinking about this, Wang Feng felt a lot of emotions. He wondered if he should go to the seven-treasure glazed tile sect. After thinking about it, he decided to forget about it. There was no need to go so deliberately. It was not appropriate to meet them now. After staying in Soto City for a few days, Wang Feng did not stop and continued to travel to many places. Some were places Wang Feng had been to before, some were places Wang Feng had never been to before. Wang Feng even heard news about Oscar and Ma Hongjun. Although there was still a year before the date he and Shrek agreed to meet, Wang Feng still felt a little emotional when he heard news about them. Wang Feng's journey was very fast. He would only stay in a city or place for a few days, observing the various events in the city. Some were about him, some were about others, and some were about him. Wang Feng felt a lot of enlightenment. In the past 4 years, the continent seemed to have changed a lot. The biggest change was his story of opening the ninth gate. It could be said that it was spread across the entire continent. Ma Hongjun and Oscar teamed up and made a good name for themselves in the world of Soul Masters. They were now around rank 57 and were not inferior to Tang San. After all, the two of them had also consumed immortal herbs. Oscar loved delicious food. In the past 4 years, he used grilled sausages as the foundation and created all kinds of food, which was loved by the world of Soul Masters. His most famous dish was called the Jinhua grilled sausage pot. It was said to be a combination of more than 10 kinds of delicious ingredients, including sea, land, and air. The main ingredient was the Jinhua grilled sausage, and it was cooked with aged wine. The finished product was soft and tender, with a rich meaty aroma. After Wang Feng heard about this dish, he thought, isn't this the King Buddha jumps over the wall? It's even the Douluo version of the Buddha jumps over the wall. Oscar is still impressive. I wonder if he has found someone he likes? Wang Fengxin thought. The Oscar he knew was slightly different from the original novel. Oscar's dream was to travel across the continent and spread delicious food. Ma Hongjun's reputation was even greater. His Fire Phoenix martial soul was becoming stronger, even though he hadn't found a suitable partner because of the sparrow-tailed phoenix crown. He and Oscar were called the Jinhua Phoenixes. Wang Feng didn't know what to say about this name. After hearing about the two of them, Wang Feng also traveled across half of the Heaven Do Empire. Other than Heaven Do City, he went to all the other duchies. 3 months had passed. After hearing about many old friends, he was already at the border of the Heaven Do Empire and in the territory of the Star Luo Empire. During these 3 months of traveling, Wang Feng was alone. He didn't fight a single battle. He was like a grain of sand in the mortal world, drifting with the waves. He had also seen the different cultures of the various places on the continent, as well as the various forms of life. He also met many people. There were ordinary commoners, shrewd merchants, powerful soul cultivators, and noble nobles. He could vaguely feel that his spirit was different, but he couldn't put his finger on it. During these 3 months, Wang Feng didn't cultivate at all. He just traveled normally. However, that ancient tree gave Wang Feng a strange feeling. He seemed to have been touched. Wang Feng roughly understood something. The word front in this ancient tree seemed to have something to do with his understanding of the world. It didn't have much to do with the strength of his spiritual power. Life is full of all kinds of things. It seems that everything is unpredictable, but there are traces to follow. Just like that, Wang Feng used the tree branch to spin on the map. The tip of the tree branch landed in a corner of the Star Luo Empire, and Wang Feng stepped on the road to the Star Luo Empire. Author's note, I'm writing in my hometown. Although I didn't go out, my condition is normal. In a chapter. Chapter 546. Star Luo Empire. In the original novel, there was very little specific introduction to this country. Wang Feng didn't know much, but the culture of this country was much fiercer than that of the Heaven Do Empire. Perhaps it was because of the empire's policies and the influence of the election model, causing the cities here to be more aggressive and more frequent. After all, even the heir of the empire was elected in a more cruel way. The sole masters of the major academies were naturally more aggressive. The most prominent feature was the Soul Battle Arena. The Soul Battle Arena of the Star Luo Empire saw blood every time, unlike the Soul Battle Arena of the Heaven Do Empire, which was classified into different categories. If it wasn't a life and death battle, there wouldn't be blood. At most, there would be injuries. This kind of hot-blooded and valiant fighting style surprised Wang Feng. In such high-intensity battles, the combat power of the Soul Masters of the Star Luo Empire was generally stronger than the Soul Masters of the Heaven Do Empire. In the Douluo world, the combat power of a Soul Master largely determined the strength of a country. This was because Soul Masters affected all aspects of a country. On the way, Wang Feng also met another old friend, Zhan Xiaotian, the captain of the Aries College team that he eliminated in the first round of the finals. A team with the potential to win the championship. Wang Feng was traveling with a caravan of the Star Luo Empire and happened to be attacked by a few soul beasts. Then, he met Zhan Xiaotian's team and was saved. He was a powerful genius in the martial spear hall who had a super strong martial soul, Zhan Meng Beast. Now, he was already rank 61. More than 4 years ago, he was less than rank 47. Now he had risen 14 ranks, averaging 4 or 5 ranks a year. He was one of the most powerful geniuses in the Star Luo Empire today. He was not inferior to the current crown prince of the Star Luo Empire, Dalu. Wang Feng was just an ordinary guard. He blended into the caravan and looked at Zhan Xiaotian from afar. More than 4 years had passed, and Zhan Xiaotian was in his 20s. After being cured by Wang Feng with the Golden Lotus, his strength had not suffered any damage. Listening to their conversation, Wang Feng also learned that Zhan Xiaotian had graduated from the Aries College. He was still in the Aries College, but he was also traveling the Star Luo Empire. He did not accept any invitation from any power. Otherwise, with his strength and talent, he would be a guest of honor in any family. Zhan Xiaotian should be a genius on par with Shrek's 7 monsters. To a certain extent, he might even surpass them. It didn't appear in the original novel. Wang Feng watched from afar, feeling a little emotional. This guy had now grown into an extremely burly and majestic man. He was at least 9 meters tall, but he didn't give off an exaggerated feeling. The muscles all over his body were very well proportioned. Little brother, why do I feel that you look a little familiar? Have I seen you somewhere before? At this moment, Zhan Xiaotian, who was talking to the leader of the caravan, seemed to have felt Wang Feng's gaze. He could not help but turn a look at Wang Feng in surprise. Wang Feng grinned. He wasn't wearing a mask at this moment, but he had changed his appearance. Otherwise, with his prestige, he would probably cause a huge commotion wherever he went. I'm just an ordinary soul master. How can I compare to you, the new war god of the Star Luo Empire? Wang Feng said casually. Zhan Xiaotian was known as the new war god of the Star Luo Empire. He was the cornerstone of the Star Luo Empire's Soul Master World. This title was given by the Star Luo Empire's crown prince, Dalu. Zhan Xiaotian was indeed worthy of this title. Zhan Xiaotian looked at Wang Feng a little suspiciously. He continued, "That's strange. I don't know why you give me a familiar feeling." Wang Fengxin thought to himself, "This guy's indeed quite impressive. He can even sense this. I've only met him a few times." "Haha, Brother Zhan, you must be joking. He's an ordinary soul master hired by our caravan. How do you know him?" The leader of the caravan laughed and said, "I still have to thank you for your help just now. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to deal with that 10,000-year soul beast." "Right, Brother Zhan. Why are you in a border city of the Star Luo Empire?" "I'm traveling. Someone asked me to look for someone." Zhan Xiaotian was very forthright. He didn't seem to have any intention of hiding anything. Looking for someone? Who are you looking for, Brother Jean? The middle-aged leader was astonished. If you're looking for someone, the treasured rock chamber of commerce can help you. After all, we're traveling through various cities. We're very well informed. You saved us just now, and you don't want anything in return. We can still help you with this. This you might not be able to help. Jean Xiaotian shook his head. How do you know we can't help if you don't tell us? The middle-aged man laughed. Brother Jean, are you looking down on the treasured rock chamber of commerce? The treasured rock chamber of commerce's businesses were located in the Douluo Empire. It was considered one of the largest chambers of commerce. Wang Feng heard that there were titled law overseeing it. It was also considered a huge power in the Douluo Empire. All right then, Jean Xiaotian grinned. The person I'm looking for is called Jioi Kai. You've all heard of him, right? Do you have any news of him? Hearing this, the middle-aged man was stunned. Many of the guards who were packing their luggage were also stunned. Why is Jean Xiaotian looking for me? Wang Feng was also stunned as he thought to himself. Brother Jean, you must be joking. The middle-aged man laughed bitterly. The Martial Soul Hall has already announced to the continent that Jioi Kai is dead. How can you find him? Now that the entire continent knew about Jioi Kai, they naturally knew about it too. That's right. Jean Xiaotian laughed. However, I don't think he's dead. Furthermore, I've been entrusted by the Zhu family to find him. The Zhu family? The middle-aged man was bewildered. The Zhu family is now the #1 family in the Douluo Empire. That person is also known as the #1 beauty in the Douluo Empire. She's terrifyingly powerful. She just turned 18, and I heard she's already at rank 61. Brother Jean, you have joined the Zhu family? Don't tell me you're attracted to her too. That's not it. Jean Xiaotian shook his head. The Zhu family entrusted me to find him. The treasured rock chamber of commerce should have also been entrusted by the Zhu family, right? Furthermore, I don't believe that Jioi Kai is dead. That's why I've been traveling the continent for the past 2 years to find him. Hearing this, the middle-aged man understood. The Zhu family had developed rapidly in the past 2 years, and they were originally a noble family of the Douluo Empire. They had also entrusted the treasured rock chamber of commerce to search for Jioi Kai. However, the Martial Soul Hall had already confirmed it, and they didn't want to waste their time searching for a dead person. He also didn't understand why the Zhu family wanted to find a dead person. Wang Feng was silent. The middle-aged man leading the group was definitely talking about Zhu Zhuqing. Looking at the situation, Zhu Zhuqing should have improved a lot. In a chapter. Chapter 547. For years ago, at the time of the competition, he was only rank 43. Now he was rank 61, which was an increase of 18 levels. His improvement speed was even more exaggerated than that of many geniuses. In another year, he would be at least rank 65 or 66. Too slow. It seems that Zhu Zhuqing didn't develop the meteoric tear. She shouldn't be able to use it. Wang Feng shook his head inwardly. She only said that the meteoric tear could increase her cultivation speed rapidly. If I had known earlier, I would have told her some of the methods. If not, I could have tried compressing my soul power or go through all kinds of extreme training to activate the meteoric tear's energy. The meteoric tear had many functions, but if she didn't know how to use them, she could only speed up her cultivation speed. However, it's fine as long as she's doing well, Wang Fengxin thought. Recalling the scene in the Pope's palace, Wang Fengxin felt a little complicated. After thinking for a long time, he still didn't plan to meet him. Little brother, how about I spar with you? At this time, Jean Xiaotian looked at Wang Feng again. You give me a different feeling. F***CK. I've hidden it so well, but I still can't hide this eye-catching characteristic of mine. Wang Fengxin was speechless. Then Wang Feng shook his head and said, No, I'm just an ordinary soul master guard. I can't beat you. This Jean Xiaotian is a little interesting. A man with such a strong sixth sense. If I fight with him, he might be able to detect something. Wang Feng didn't come out to show off this time, nor did he plan to fight. His purpose was very clear. Seeing this, Jean Xiaotian didn't insist. After a while, Jean Xiaotian left, and Wang Feng continued his tour of the Douluo Empire. During this period, Wang Feng walked leisurely. Sometimes he became a guard of a business group. Sometimes he became a nameless hunter. Sometimes he was an ordinary merchant. And sometimes he pretended to be a noble. Wang Feng used his own understanding of what he had learned and seen in the past 3 months to present what he had learned and seen. Playing the various roles of the mortal world was very interesting. Looking at things from a different perspective, it was really different if one had never experienced it before. Is this the legendary experience of the mortal world? 2 months later, Wang Feng stood in a restaurant, gently swirling a cup of light purple wine as he gazed at the vast city and sighed softly. 5 months had passed since the start of the journey. During his 2 months in the Douluo Empire, he had traveled to many places. He was filled with emotions. Wang Feng realized that although everyone had a martial soul, there were only a few who could be of help. Most of the people who had a martial soul had an innate soul power that was too low to be of any use. There was not much difference between having a martial soul and not having a martial soul. What was most interesting was that most of the ordinary people had more respect and trust for the martial spirit palace than the two empires. This was because the martial soul hall had set up many rules and provided many soul masters with free subsidies, just like the modern national subsidies. Moreover, the martial spirit palace had a high prestige among the common people, and most of them had a good reputation. That was the most coquettish thing. For most ordinary people, a country was more like a place of belonging, and it was also very difficult to replace. The existence of the martial spirit palace was even more special. Sometimes, Wang Feng thought that although the martial spirit palace was the villain in the original novel, it made great contributions in the Douluo world. It could be said that it had set up many rules for cultivating martial souls and opened up a new path. It was just that some of the leaders had changed the original position and purpose of the martial spirit palace and brought it to an extreme, which led to its destruction. Is this the law of development of all things? Wang Feng murmured. In the ancient times of my previous life, there were more than 2,000 years of history, and nothing could be maintained for a long time. Any empire's power would slowly evolve and change in the river of time, and eventually deviate from its starting point. The same goes for the martial spirit palace. Wang Feng seemed to have realized something. Suddenly, Wang Feng felt the ancient tree that he had been carrying on his chest move slightly. He took it out and wrapped it with his spiritual power. This time, he could feel a series of mystical chants appearing on the ancient tree. Streams of will were emitted from the ancient tree and imprinted into his mind, forming an ancient word that represented the passage of time. Forward secret word. Wang Feng took a deep breath. It appeared. As expected, this thing needs to be experienced and comprehended. The forward secret word was a little special. It had certain requirements for one's spiritual power and soul, or else it would be hard to cultivate. Perhaps it had nothing to do with strength, but with one's realm. The spiritual realm was a very mysterious thing. However, Wang Feng's experience in both lives was not as much as what he had experienced in the past few months. It's time to leave. There's less than a month left, just enough time to cultivate the forward secret word. Wang Feng thought silently. In these 5 months, Wang Feng had seen many old friends and experienced many different characters in the mortal world. He didn't show off and lived an ordinary life. Although his fighting strength hadn't improved, his temperament had become more and more steady, simple, and unpretentious. Wang Feng also learned a lot. He learned various negotiation skills from the merchants, knowledge of the continent, how to protect and take care of others from the guards, and also learned many ancient noble etiquette from the side of an old noble. Wang Feng had even observed a politician from the Douluo Empire for half a month. At that time, Wang Feng was lucky enough to meet Dalu. Dalu was now the crown prince of the Douluo Empire, and his elder brother was dying. Furthermore, Dalu took Shueyu as the crown prince's concubine in a forceful manner, ignoring the advice of many people around him. This made many nobles in the Douluo Empire unhappy. After all, the Shui family was an ordinary family in the Heavendo Empire. However, Shueyu and Zhu Zhuqing of the Zhu family became sisters with different surnames, and directly blocked the voices of many old nobles in the Star Luo Empire. Although the Star Luo Empire and the Heaven Do Empire were two different empires, their customs were different. However, these nobles and politicians were very similar. Wang Feng could now say without reservation that if he wanted to hide in this mortal world, no one would be able to find him. His camouflage ability had already reached the max. Wang Feng felt that he should not be inferior to those ace agents from his previous life. This kind of mortal experience could allow impetuous people to truly calm down and think about themselves. Actually, it was necessary for many soul masters. Whether it was soul masters, martial artists, or cultivators, to put it bluntly, they were all cultivators. If one blindly cultivated, one state of mind would be insufficient, and it would be very easy to encounter a bottleneck. Wang Feng did not encounter any bottlenecks because his dustless glass was too abnormal. However, his state of mind was indeed insufficient. In his previous life, Wang Feng was a small otaku. After idling around in the Douluo world for 6 years, he received the help of the system and soared to the heavens. Relying on his tenacious willpower, he worked hard to cultivate, and all kinds of negative emotions had no effect on Wang Feng. He was completely unhindered. However, in reality, he had very little understanding of this world. Due to his insufficient state of mind, it was difficult for him to manifest the word anterior. Even if there were no problems now, there would be problems in the future. In this close to half a year of traveling around the continent, Wang Fengxin's state of mind had been perfected. End of chapter. Chapter 548. Wang Feng finally understood why those immortal cultivators who had cultivated to a certain level would often be sent out to gain experience in the world of mortals. Although it was a very old-fashioned method, it was still useful. Thinking of this, Wang Feng finished the strong liquor in his cup in one gulp and then walked out of the hotel, planning to leave. However, when he walked out of the hotel, he heard a clear voice. "Young mistress, you should go back to cultivate later. Your friend from the Heaven Do Empire has sent you a letter." Yes. Although Wang Feng was not familiar with the voice in front of him, the cold voice at the back made Wang Feng turn around to take a look. It was a girl with a perfect figure. She was dressed in black, and her face was as white as snow. She looked like she was only 14 or 15 years old, but she was exceptionally beautiful. Her long black hair was tied up. Although only her side profile could be seen, both her appearance and her figure were alluring. As long as one's eyes were on her, it would be difficult to move them away. The slightly childish face, the mature and perfect figure, and the cold and elegant temperament were somewhat contradictory, but they were perfectly integrated into the girl's body. I didn't expect to meet her. Wang Feng was stunned and looked at her from afar. The girl and her servant were in the middle of the hotel. They seemed to be choosing a room and did not see him. It has been more than 4 years. She has matured a lot. Her figure is better too. She has also grown taller. Her soul power is 2 ranks higher than what the leader of the Chamber of Commerce said. Wang Feng looked at the girl's side profile, but he did not go over to greet her. "I will see you then." Wang Feng looked at her deeply and quickly walked out of the hotel. He felt waves in his heart. Just as Wang Feng stepped out of the hotel, the girl seemed to have sensed something. She turned around abruptly and looked at the entrance. There were only pedestrians coming and going at the entrance, but she could not find the figure that she had missed for many years. She could only vaguely see a graceful back figure flashing through the crowd. She rushed to the door and looked around. The strange feeling in her heart did not disappear for a long time. She could feel her heart pounding. "Young mistress, what's wrong?" The servant followed her. "Nothing." Zhu Zhuqing touched her heart and felt it beat abnormally. She shook her head. "Why do I have a feeling that he has appeared?" Zhu Zhuqing's heart throbbed. "It's been more than 4 years. Wang Feng, where are you?" Looks like there is some attraction and connection between the 2 meteoric tears. Wang Feng also touched his heart and thought to himself, but Zhu Zhuqing's meteoric tear hasn't been used before, so she can't feel it very strongly. Otherwise, she would have sensed me the moment I appeared beside her. When he saw Zhu Zhuqing, he noticed that she had become more mature. but she had also lost a lot of weight. As a result, her figure had become even better. However, the training had come to an end for Wang Feng. He was less than a month away from the date he had agreed to meet the two-titled Douluo. To be precise, it was only slightly more than 10 days. In the next 10 days, I will do my best to cultivate the anterior secret character and raise my mind and soul to a new level. Wang Feng found a remote forest that was about 1 day's journey away from the martial spirit palace. Then, he started to cultivate the anterior secret character quietly. After the forward secret word appeared, the contents weren't too profound for Wang Feng. In addition to Wang Feng's pure soul, it was very easy for him to cultivate it. The effect of the dustless glass body was now displayed. The body that was completely tempered by the karmic fire of the Red Lotus was unprecedentedly strong. This treasure was also slowly being developed. The more it was developed, the more Wang Feng could feel the brilliance of this body. Wang Feng only took a few days to master a profound secret technique like the anterior secret character. At this moment, in Wang Feng's sea of consciousness, there was a vast expanse of white fog. Then, the white fog slowly condensed and shrunk. 3 martial souls revolved around his sea of consciousness. This illusory white fog was his spiritual power. It seemed very large, but it was actually very illusory. However, spiritual power was originally illusory. It was already very difficult for it to form white fog. To a certain extent, this was already the manifestation of spiritual power. Under the cultivation of the anterior secret character, the white fog grew more and more. Wang Feng's spiritual power was actually very scattered. Some of it was contained in his skull, some of it was strengthened after being refined by the Red Lotus karmic fire, and some of it was slowly strengthened after being refined. However, under the cultivation of the anterior secret character, the white fog slowly formed in Wang Feng's sea of consciousness. My spiritual power has condensed into a fog. Wang Feng, on the other hand, was aware of this change. This meant that his mental energy had entered a new realm. Although it was just white fog, it was also a symbol. However, Wang Feng felt that his spiritual power had become indescribably strong. The cultivation of the anterior secret character seems very special. If I continue to cultivate like this, I wonder what will happen. Wang Feng thought to himself. His current spiritual power. No, to be precise, it was already somewhat similar to the divine sense of cultivation. Moreover, it was the divine sense that had condensed into white fog, not the illusory and formless spiritual power. Wang Feng naturally knew what this meant. And the soul, this illusory existence, I seem to be able to sense it a little. Wang Feng pondered. The soul was also illusory in his previous life, and it was also very illusory in the Douluo world. It was more like a concept. No one knew what it was exactly. However, Wang Feng could vaguely sense his own soul. To be precise, Wang Feng had sensed it when he was being refined by the Red Lotus karmic fire. However, after the refinement, Wang Feng could no longer sense it. But now, with the strength of his spiritual power, Wang Feng could actually sense his soul slightly more clearly. When my spiritual power reaches a certain level, I'll be able to resonate with my soul. At that time, I might be able to cultivate my soul into the primordial spirit of those cultivators. Can the primordial spirit leave the body? Even if the physical body is destroyed, as long as the primordial spirit is not destroyed, it will never dissipate. Wang Feng thought. Of course, these were only Wang Feng's guesses. However, since spiritual power could condense into fog, it could condense into water droplets, and water droplets could converge into thin streams, and thin streams could eventually converge into rivers and seas. Finally, it would turn from liquid to solid, and finally solidify into a true primordial spirit. Although he did not have a clear level, Wang Feng seemed to be able to deduce this in advance. Wang Feng's soul was pure, and his spiritual power was also incomparably pure. His cultivation was extremely fast. That enormous spiritual power, under the cultivation of the anterior secret character, transformed into countless white fog every second. A few days later, in the extremely dense white fog, a rice-sized water droplet was formed resplendently. After this water droplet was formed, Wang Feng only felt a loud boom in his mind, as if the world had changed into a form. Countless white fog rapidly gathered towards the water droplet. End of chapter. Chapter 549. Wang Feng suddenly opened his eyes, and lightning flashed in his eyes. He scanned with his divine telekinesis. Within a radius of 1,000 meters, he could see all the changes in all the living beings. It was like a satellite scan. It was terrifying. It wasn't as simple as seeing something or a creature within 1,000 meters. He knew everything within the range like the back of his hand. He didn't even need to open his eyes. Then, he would be able to sense it clearly. After condensing his spiritual power into a water droplet, this kind of perception was beyond Wang Feng's imagination. If Wang Feng were to challenge the path of hell now, he would be able to learn everything about it just by relying on his senses. Wang Feng could even predict what kind of attacks would appear. He could even push through with his second gear ability. Too strong. Wang Feng's divine telekinesis changed, and countless black lights formed a pitch-black longsword in mid-air. Then whoosh! The longsword suddenly shot out. In the blink of an eye, it broke through 100 meters. It completely exceeded Wang Feng's control of the mysterious dark spike. And the current mysterious dark spike was abnormally strong. Using spiritual power to control objects to kill people was related to spiritual power. The power of the mysterious dark spike was completely proportional to spiritual power. The stronger one's spiritual power, the more powerful the mysterious dark spike would be. With Wang Feng's current spiritual power and the fact that the mysterious dark spike was his own soul bone, it was equivalent to his natal magic treasure. And it wasn't an ordinary flying sword magic treasure. It was naturally more powerful when used. The mysterious dark spike became even stronger. Previously, Wang Feng only used a sharp blade that was tens of centimeters long to test it. But now it was no longer limited to this kind of sharp blade. The mysterious dark spike, in any form, was extremely powerful under Wang Feng's control. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Within a range of 200 meters. In almost a few seconds, countless towering trees were easily cut down and fell in front of Wang Feng. Strong. Wang Feng's pupils shrank. If possible, the power of the mysterious dark spike had already surpassed the pure gear ability and could be considered a brand new gear ability. Those below rank 80 won't be able to block my mysterious dark flying sword, even if they use soul skills. Wang Feng felt the power of the mysterious dark spike. No, it shouldn't be called the mysterious underworld stab anymore. It would be better to call it the mysterious underworld flying sword. In the capital of slaughter, soul masters can't use soul skills. The mysterious underworld spike can kill any soul master below rank 60. Even if he uses a soul skill to defend himself, he won't be able to block the power of the mysterious underworld spike. Who would have thought that his mental strength would be so terrifying after reaching this level? It can even harm a titled Douluo. The mysterious underworld spike was an external soul bone. Although it was constantly improving, it wasn't as strong as Wang Feng's other abilities. It could only harm middle-ranked soul masters. But now, after his spiritual power had solidified into liquid, its power had reached an unimaginable level. Wang Feng was even confident that he could form a terrifying killing array with just a flying sword formed from the mysterious underworld spike and fully unleash his mental strength. However, this kind of killing formation consumed a lot of mental power. It was fine if they were caught off guard, but if they fought for a long time, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. However, Wang Feng was satisfied. After all, his current mental power could only condense one water droplet. The mental power that had been stored for so long would slowly transform into more water droplets as he cultivated, and his mental power would become stronger. Sooner or later, I'll be able to take your heads from 1,000 miles away. Wang Feng laughed. I, Wang Feng, will also be a sword immortal in the future. Sword come. Wang Feng shouted out loudly, and the Netherism flying sword was like a fleeting shadow that descended before Wang Feng. Grow, Wang Feng said plainly. Instantly, the black light condensed on the flying sword twice, causing it to grow larger. In the past, the larger the object formed by the mysterious underworld spike was, the harder it would be for Wang Feng to control it with his mental power. However, this problem was solved now. Unless he formed a huge sword with tens of thousands of mysterious underworld spikes, Wang Feng might find it difficult to control it. However, this problem didn't exist with a sword that was slightly thicker. Wang Feng jumped lightly and landed steadily on the flying sword. Stable. The flying sword didn't even tremble. It was even more stable than the high-speed rail in his previous life. This was the effect of increasing his mental power. Compared to when he stepped on a sharp blade, he had to shake a little. It was many times stronger. Rise. Filled with excitement, Wang Feng shouted softly. In an instant, the flying sword rose dozens of meters in the air before it gradually stopped. Looking at the scene below that was gradually becoming smaller, Wang Feng suddenly felt that this half a year of training was too worth it. Excitement. In his previous life, Wang Feng had this kind of heroic sword dream. He didn't expect that it would finally come true. Actually, Wang Feng didn't care if the mysterious underworld spike was strong or not. What he cared about the most was sword kinesis flight. Keywords: dream realization, pretentious, cool. There were too many reasons for Wang Feng to care about it. This made Wang Feng feel even better than pure flying. Wang Feng placed his hands behind his back and looked down indifferently. The excitement in his eyes completely betrayed him. The increase in his mental power didn't affect Wang Feng's various soul skills and martial souls much, because they were directly related to his soul power. However, it had an earth-shattering change in a real battle. This feeling was similar to the emptiness realm. However, the emptiness realm consumed the physical strength of the body. It was equivalent to burning one's potential to erupt with terrifying perception and allow one to perform all kinds of dodging. It was equivalent to the entire body being similar to muscle memory. One could use this to dodge the enemy's attacks and explode with extreme speed. However, spiritual power was different. When one's spiritual power was strong enough, one could sense the enemy's attacks and dodge them in advance. Furthermore, the front secret character had this kind of ability. Of course, Wang Feng had just cultivated it, so the effect wasn't obvious. When he was slightly more advanced, he could even predict the enemy's attacks. Foresight. He could probably even dodge a lot of lock-on soul skills. It's time to go to the martial spirit hall. The speed of the flying sword wasn't slow. The wind in the air was also very noisy. Wang Feng said indifferently. After that, he used his divine thought, and the flying sword turned into a ray of light, bringing him in the direction of the Martial Spirit Hall. Today was the last day of half a year. Martial Spirit City, Pontiff's Palace. In a huge square, there were many titled Douluo standing in great numbers. Every titled Douluo was dressed in formal attire. Their golden robes were studded with gems, and their expressions were solemn. Ghost Douluo and Chrysanthemum Douluo were among them. In the center, Bibi Dawn stood quietly. For years passed in a flash. As the Pope, she didn't seem to have changed at all. Time didn't leave any traces on her face, but her aura became more dignified and holy. Half a year ago, when the Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo returned, they reported everything that had happened to Bibi Dawn. At that time, Bibi Dawn was very surprised. She didn't expect the white-clothed death god to be so strong. He could actually defeat the Ghost Douluo. He could even cultivate by absorbing all kinds of emotions. In a chapter. Chapter 550. His martial soul was also very mysterious. He even had a 100,000-year soul ring. Bibi Dawn had to pay attention to him. After that, Gue Douluo and Juve Douluo continued to talk about the white-clothed death god. Hulaina also agreed. Bibi Dawn also agreed to the half-year agreement. As long as the white-clothed death god joined the Pontiff's palace, BB Dawn would let bygones be bygones. She could even represent the martial soul hall to apologize to him. The prerequisite was that the white-clothed death god had to be really powerful and sincerely join the martial soul hall. At the same time, the martial soul hall also secretly investigated the white-clothed death god on the continent. However, they also found out that the white-clothed death god came from the extreme north. There was very little information about him. This meant that the white-clothed death god might have been cultivating in the extreme north. No wonder the white-clothed death god was so powerful if he could cultivate in such a place. Even the martial soul hall didn't dare to enter the extreme north. I say, Elder Jew, Elder Gue, Your Majesty, aren't we paying too much attention to him? At this moment, one of the titled Douluo frowned and said, the white-clothed death god. According to what Elder Gue said, he relied on that special soul skill to suppress Elder Gue. Otherwise, Elder Gue wouldn't have been defeated by him. Although the white-clothed death god can absorb emotions to cultivate, which is indeed special, there is no need for all of us to be here, right? There were a total of 7 titled Douluo. One of them was the second consecrator of the martial soul hall. The rest were titled Douluo from the Elder Hall. Other than the exceptional Douluo, all the titled Douluo from the Pope's Palace were here. There were still 2 titled Douluo who should be recuperating. Ju Douluo and Gue Douluo didn't say anything. It was obvious that if the white-clothed death god came and didn't choose to join the martial soul hall, he wouldn't be able to leave. This was the agreement back then. It seemed like they were paying attention to him, but they were actually deterring him. If the white-clothed death god didn't come, the martial soul hall would have sufficient reason to issue a kill order. What do you know? Elder Gue said that according to the agreement, if the white-clothed death god comes and doesn't join the martial soul hall, he has violated the agreement. We have reason to keep him here. Another titled Douluo said, he's not that stupid. Since he's here, he must want to join the martial spirit palace. The thorny pufferfish Douluo shook his head and said, however, Elder Gue said that he has the abilities of a titled Douluo. I think this is still debatable. The titled Douluo expressed their opinions. Over the past 4 years, the Martial Spirit Hall had accepted 2 titled Douluo on the surface. They were both powerful individuals who had been cultivating in seclusion. However, he wasn't a transcendent Douluo, but they didn't use this kind of formation. It could be seen that His Majesty the Pope valued this white-clothed god of death. Perhaps this had something to do with the fact that he had saved her disciple. Enough. At this moment, the scepter in Bibi Dong's hand vibrated on the ground. His calm voice immediately silenced the few titled Douluo. Hulaina, who was standing behind the Bibi Dong, looked on nervously. He's here. Bibidon's eyes narrowed. It seemed to have sensed something. The rest of the titled Douluo were stunned. They looked at the steps below the plaza, but they didn't see anyone. In the sky, a golden-haired titled Douluo shouted, swish, swish, swish. Instantly, everyone's gazes focused on the sky. A white figure flew over from afar like a stream of light. There were no soul power undulations. No wonder the titled Douluo didn't sense anything. However, as titled Douluo, they were all very powerful. Naturally, they could see what that white streak of light was. It was a mysterious person wearing a white robe and a mask. Not a single part of his body was exposed. Beneath his feet was a long sword formed from sharp blades. He was standing on this long sword with his hands behind his back. He was flying over on his sword. His elegance was unparalleled. All the titled Douluo were stunned as they watched. Flying on a sword wasn't difficult for a titled Douluo. Titled Douluo had the ability to fly. If he had a tool soul, he could easily fly on his sword when he revealed his martial soul true body. For example, their honorary elder, the Sword Douluo, could easily fly on his sword. However, he would release soul power undulations when he used his martial soul to fly on his sword. But now, they couldn't sense any soul power undulations from him. How did he do it? This was a little beyond their imagination. They could only guess that it was some other method. However, They had to admit that this white-clothed Grim Reaper's aura was very strong. Swoosh, swoosh. From the moment they discovered it, it had only been a few dozen seconds. In the square, a pitch-black light flashed, and that figure had already landed safely on the ground. Silence. Very silence. Both parties seemed to be sizing each other up. Wang Feng was sizing up BB Don and the seven title Daw, in this martial soul hall, which he hadn't seen in a long time. He was very emotional. He didn't expect him to come with such an identity. BB Don, it's been a few years since we last met. It seems like you've been doing well. Wang Fengxin couldn't help but laugh. Logically speaking, as someone who had a godlike view, he could understand many things that BB Don did. However, understanding was one thing. If there was enmity, there was enmity. Wang Feng still remembered clearly that he had escaped from the Pope's palace. At this moment, Hu Laina, who was behind BB Don, seemed a little agitated. However, she didn't rush out because there were too many titled Douluo present. Are you the white-clothed Grim Reaper? Bibidan's dignified voice sounded. Her voice carried an irresistible aura, and it was easy for people to overlook her gender. Are you the Pope of the Martial Soul Hall? It seems like the Martial Soul Hall thinks highly of me. Wang Feng swept his gaze across the seven titled Daw. There are actually seven titled Douluo here to welcome me. However, I, Nicholas Wang Wu, am worthy of it. After he finished speaking, the entire place fell silent again. Even BB Don was a little stunned. This white-clothed Grim Reaper seems a little arrogant. Just as the ghost of Awe had said, she had sent the seven titled Douluo here to intimidate him, not to welcome him. Did this white-clothed Grim Reaper take it personally? Arrogant. The thorny pufferfish Douluo couldn't help but say, "Kid, you're being so mysterious. Who are you? If you want to join the Martial Soul Hall, we will naturally welcome you. However, if you want us to welcome you, we'll see if you have the ability to do so." Oh, Wang Feng glanced at the thorny pufferfish Douluo. A titled Douluo with a thorny pufferfish martial soul who isn't even rank 94 wants to see my abilities? All right, I'm indeed here to join the Martial Soul Hall. I also want to see if there's anything worthy of me joining the Martial Soul Hall. After he finished speaking, Wang Feng walked to one side of the plaza. I don't like to talk too much. Let's fight. If I can't defeat you in 3 moves, I'll get out of here. After he finished speaking, Wang Feng pointed to the steps below the Pope's palace. His tone was very calm, and he didn't sound arrogant at all. He didn't seem to be emotional at all. It was as if he was supposed to say that. However, after hearing his words, the few titled Douluo's expressions changed. A thought surfaced in their minds. This white-clothed Grim Reaper is a tough nut to crack. However, Bibidan's eyes sparkled as she stared at Wang Feng. She was a little surprised. This white-clothed Grim Reaper is really interesting. Hulina clasped her hands tightly behind her. As she looked at the white-clothed Grim Reaper, she seemed to be looking at the sun. She was in a daze. P.S. There are 2 or 3 more chapters tonight. Please count your votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 551. After half a year of training, Wang Feng's soul power had increased by 1 rank, reaching rank 59, even though he hadn't cultivated. The biggest improvement that Wang Feng's spiritual power had given him was the mysterious underworld spike. The mysterious underworld spike's strength had increased to a level where it was comparable to Wang Feng's other abilities. At the same time, the Skull's Shadowmist soul skill and Perception soul skill had also been greatly strengthened. Now that he had activated Shadowmist, even BB Don wouldn't be able to sense his soul power rank and martial soul. In addition, his strong spiritual power also gave him unparalleled perception in battle, which was very helpful in battle. Other than that, it didn't bring much change to Wang Feng's other martial soul abilities. Although the cultivation of his spiritual power had improved by leaps and bounds, there weren't many effective ways to deal with enemies. For example, Wang Feng didn't know many spiritual attack methods. He could only think of using a tool to kill people. The use of spiritual power had yet to be developed. Therefore, although Wang Feng's spiritual power was very strong now, and there was probably no soul master in the Douluo world who could materialize spiritual power and condense it into spiritual water droplets like him. The actual help that it gave Wang Feng in battle wasn't ridiculously high. At the same time, in the Pope's palace, Wang Feng couldn't expose all the abilities that he had used the last time he came to the Pope's palace. The chaotic green lotus had 4 forms. The dark angel couldn't be possessed, and the mysterious underworld spike couldn't be changed too much. Once it changed too much, it would be easy to arouse suspicion. Until now, in the eyes of Hu Laiina and Tang San, Wang Feng's mysterious underworld spike was a sharp blade that was dozens of centimeters long. They would only think that it was a soul bone or a special martial soul. Furthermore, using a tool to kill people was too mysterious. It was completely different from Wang Feng's mysterious underworld spike. As for soul rings, it didn't matter. He just had to find an excuse to hide them. Hiding soul rings might be rare for normal soul masters on the continent, but these titled weren't very surprised. There was nothing to say about his soul power rank. When Wang Feng said that he relied on his emotions to increase his strength, he could explain it to them directly. It couldn't be calculated according to the normal cultivation rank. Right now, there weren't many abilities that Wang Feng could use, but every one of them was very powerful. The power of the blood mark, the original sin domain, the mysterious underworld spike, the cauldron of heaven and earth, the 100,000-year torso bone, and his own strength. For example, Wang Feng did not intend to use Void Realm in order to avoid being exposed. On the square, Wang Feng looked at the thorny pufferfish Douluo with an indifferent expression. He had said those words on purpose. His goal was simple, to create a persona for himself. Being pretentious was the process, but setting up a character was the goal. That kind of aloof and arrogant, peerless expert persona. The thorny pufferfish Douluo was also sizing up his opponent. Logically speaking, even though they had spoken with disdain earlier, they still regarded Hui Yuhao with great importance. Hui Yuhao was able to defeat the ghost Douluo, and even though he had used a soul skill to his advantage, he was definitely strong. It was just that as titled Douluo, they had never seen or exchanged blows with Hui Yuhao before, so none of them were willing to admit defeat. Otherwise, how could a titled Douluo, who had cultivated for decades, submit to and admire someone so casually? However, when he heard the other party say that if he couldn't defeat him in 3 moves, he would get lost. Furthermore, it was said in such a calm tone. Even he found it unbearable. The thorny pufferfish Douluo roared, and his 9 soul rings lit up. Yellow, yellow, purple, 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 black, 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 black. It was practically the best soul ring configuration. A light black water dolphin covered in thorns suddenly appeared from his body. Reveal your martial spirit. The thorny pufferfish Douluo's soul rings lit up, and his aura was immense. He was a rank 92 titled Douluo, but his abilities weren't inferior to those of a rank 93 titled Douluo. Even among ordinary titled Douluo, he was considered a very powerful assault-type titled Douluo. No need, Wang Feng said calmly. Tang Wulin's words made the thorny pufferfish Douluo's head bleed. This white god of death was too arrogant. Martial soul, true body. The thorny pufferfish Douluo couldn't take it anymore. He roared furiously, and his 7th soul ring flashed as he activated his martial soul, true body. He saw a black capybara the size of a shark floating in the air. Its 2 fins, which looked like the wings of an airplane, were gently swaying. It was covered with sharp thorns, and its whole body was embroidered with strange patterns, which looked like sashimi. He could only see the thorny pufferfish Douluo's body through his head. Following this, the remaining soul rings on the thorny pufferfish Douluo's body lit up. However, at this moment, the white god of death moved. More accurately speaking, he didn't move. Instead, it was the sharp blades surrounding his body that moved. The sharp blades were 1/2 meter long and 3 fingers wide, and they looked like short thorns. Swoosh! They pierced through the air and pierced through the air. Their terrifying speed tore through the clouds. They fell from the sky like raindrops falling down. Every blade seemed to be very powerful. The ear-piercing sounds caused the other Douluo's expressions to change. Everyone present was a titled Douluo. Naturally, they could feel how powerful these sharp blades were. Is this his ability to kill people with his imperial equipment? Those sharp blades don't seem to belong to his martial soul. They should be special soul bones. However, they don't have any soul power. His spiritual power is very strong. The golden-haired elder furrowed his brow and said, "Does your holiness see anything wrong?" Bibidon didn't answer. This white god of death had a fog-like aura that could conceal him from others. Evidently, it was a special ability. This wasn't a big deal. Everyone knew how to hide their auras. Bibidon had been to the city of Massacre before. However, he didn't stay for long. He only secretly watched Hulaina and saw the white god of death's abilities. However, he didn't think much of it. This was because the white god of death's imperial equipment didn't seem very powerful. This was especially so in the city of Massacre. Soul masters couldn't use soul skills. It was naturally difficult for them to defend against such sharp weapons with their physical bodies. Otherwise, even a rank 60 soul master would be able to use his soul skills to defend himself. Not to mention a titled Douluo. Logically speaking, such an attack was like tickling a titled Douluo. The thorny pufferfish Douluo thought the same. He saw the sharp blades coming towards him. They seemed very powerful. He was disdainful, but he didn't let his guard down. His skin suddenly became glossy, as if he had smeared oil on it. Following this, a pitch-black soul ring lit up. 3 special defensive barriers rose from his body to resist the attack of the mysterious sharp blades. However, when the sharp blades landed, everyone's expressions changed. "Pop! Combine," Wang Feng said softly. Dozens of sharp blades suddenly combined into a long sword in midair. It was the same sword that he had used to fly over. After combining, the speed of the flying sword increased tremendously. It almost turned into a streak of silver flowing light. Under the control of his spiritual power, the Xianming flying sword finally revealed its terrifying strength in front of a titled Douluo. The 3 barriers that the thorny pufferfish Douluo had erected were instantly pierced through. Chapter 552. A crisp popping sound could be heard. It was as easy as popping a balloon. The speed of the flying sword was so quick that it was hard to capture it. Even the thorny pufferfish Douluo's spiritual power couldn't detect its speed. One could only imagine how powerful it was. This was the effect of the difference in spiritual power. In fact, if this wasn't the mysterious underworld spike and was only an ordinary sword, it wouldn't have this kind of power. However, the key was that the mysterious underworld spike was Wang Feng's soulbone. He had been using it for a long time, and it was almost telepathic. It was easy for him to control it. Without any hindrance to his spiritual power, its strength was greatly increased. This was especially so after he condensed his spiritual water droplets. Swish, swish, swish. In the blink of an eye, the thorny pufferfish Douluo didn't even have time to unleash his other soul skills. After the mysterious underworld flying sword pierced through his defensive barrier, his martial soul true body was pierced by the flying sword, and a few new wounds were added. Right now, the mysterious underworld spike had evolved into a true mysterious underworld flying sword. With Wang Feng's current spiritual power, it could cause damage to a titled Douluo, unless the thorny pufferfish Douluo was a defense-type titled Douluo with extremely strong defensive abilities. However, it was a pity that he wasn't. If he were a transcendent Douluo like the Ghost Shadow Douluo, who was immune to a lot of damage, the mysterious underworld flying sword wouldn't be very effective. However, the thorny pufferfish Douluo wasn't a transcendent Douluo either. He was only a rank 92 assault-type Douluo. The sound of the flying sword resonated in midair. Finally, the flying sword landed in front of the thorny pufferfish Douluo's huge martial soul true body. The tip of the sword shone with cold light. Gulp! The thorny pufferfish Douluo took a deep breath. This white-clothed Grim Reaper is quite strong. At this moment, the titled Douluo beside him were also stunned. He was suppressed. The thorny pufferfish Douluo was completely suppressed. These sharp blades are much stronger than they were in the city of massacre. Bibidan's heart skipped a beat. Furthermore, they're not just ordinarily strong. They're at least a few levels stronger. What could have caused such a powerful change in his blades? The soul force on the blade is very weak. He should be using pure spiritual power to control it. This means that this person's spiritual power has already reached an unimaginable level. Bibidan immediately. Hulaina, who was behind him, also felt it. To be precise, she felt it very clearly. The power of these sharp blades had become countless times stronger. It was as if he had stepped into a whole new realm and domain. I've lost. The thorny pufferfish Dalu spoke decisively as he looked at the sharp light that was only a few centimeters away from him. In fact, when the sharp blades combined to form a flying sword and pierce through his defense, he felt that he might lose. Then it gently cut open his martial soul true body. One had to know that his martial soul was covered with a special layer of grease. Ordinary weapons couldn't pierce through it, unless it was a tool martial soul of the same grade. However, the other party's flying sword was able to cut through it. It could be seen that the other party's sharp sword was not only extremely powerful, but also extremely sharp. Is there anyone else who wants to spar with me? With a thought from Wang Feng, the flying swords instantly returned to his side, turning into dozens of sharp blades that floated in the air. The thorny pufferfish Douluo walked back dejectedly. I told you that the white-robed Grim Reaper isn't simple. The ghost Douluo laughed sinisterly. Although he was able to defeat me because of that special soul skill, it's not that simple. Your soul power rank is lower than mine. If we really fight, you might die even faster. His martial soul is a small cauldron, and he hasn't even used it yet. The thorny pufferfish Douluo's face turned black, but he couldn't say anything. In fact, even if Wang Feng used his martial soul, the effects wouldn't be any better. This was because the mysterious underworld spike was already very strong. Not only was it lethal to low-level soul masters, but it was also lethal to high-level soul masters. It was just like how one's feet were stronger than one's hands. If one's hands could kill an ant, one's feet could also kill it. There was no difference. Let me spar with you. At this moment, a titled Douluo stepped forward. It was the thorny pufferfish Douluo's good friend, the snake spear Douluo. His martial soul was a snake spear, a tool martial soul. It was an extremely sharp martial soul. Seeing his good friend lose so badly, he naturally couldn't sit back and do nothing. Furthermore, his martial soul was a tool martial soul. He wouldn't be defeated so easily. In addition, he had already seen his opponent's moves. He already had an idea of his imperial flying sword. It wasn't that easy to defeat him. That was the truth. Wang Feng could use his mysterious underworld flying sword to defeat the thorny pufferfish Douluo in 3 moves, because his opponent didn't know the strength of his flying sword. In addition, his opponent wasn't good at defense. He couldn't react in time and naturally lost. However, things were different now. The snake spear Douluo was a bearded man. He looked a little rough. He didn't like to talk much. He immediately unleashed his martial soul true body. A snake spear that was 8 feet long was gilded in gold. It became more than 10 meters long and was extremely huge. Once a tool soul master possessed a martial soul true body, his fighting strength wouldn't be inferior to a B soul master. In fact, he might even be stronger. He was a classic martial soul that came from behind. The snake spear Douluo's snake spear wasn't simple either. Wang Feng focused on him. In a battle between high-level soul masters, it was impossible to rely on techniques to win. He could only defeat his opponent with his true abilities. This was especially so for a titled Douluo. It wasn't like when Wang Feng was still around rank 40. He could use all sorts of tricks to defeat his opponent. However, it was impossible now. He could only rely on his abilities to defeat his opponent. Of course, he still needed to use his brain. Just like now. Once the snake spear Douluo unleashed his martial soul true body, the mysterious underworld flying sword effect was greatly reduced. Although it was strong enough, the mysterious underworld flying sword wasn't enough to break through the snake spear. Furthermore, the snake spear was huge. It could easily block Wang Feng's mysterious underworld flying sword. This was the effect of sufficient preparation. The snake spear Douluo was only rank 93. However, it was unrealistic for him to defeat the snake spear Douluo like before. However, the more they fought, the more fearful everyone became. It was very simple. The snake spear Douluo could only defend. The white-clothed death god's control of his flying sword was too exquisite. There was no angle that he couldn't attack. At times, he could split his sword into sharp blades. At other times, he could gather his flying sword to attack his opponent. Although the snake spear Douluo could defend and revolve his snake spear around his body, it was very difficult for him to attack the white-clothed death god. The snake spear Douluo was also breaking out in cold sweat. He didn't know how the white-clothed death god was able to control those things so exquisitely. He was able to attack from all angles in the air without any delay. From afar, a pitch-black broadsword could be seen. The broadsword was constantly changing as it attacked the huge snake spear from all angles. Clanging sounds resonated throughout the entire arena. It was so fast that only a streak of flowing light could be seen. Every time it clashed with a snake spear, there would be countless sparks. It was very shocking. However, this was within Wang Feng's expectations. Wang Feng didn't hesitate. His torso bone lit up, and a streak of icy light flashed towards the snake spear Douluo. Chapter 553. Soul Skill, Spirit Seal. However, the snake spear Douluo had expected this. This was because the ghost Douluo had told Bibi Don about the abilities of the white-clothed death god when he returned. The few titled Douluo naturally knew about it. However, knowing and witnessing it were two different things. Now that he saw it with his own eyes, the snake spear Douluo focused his gaze. He didn't dare to be careless. His eighth soul ring lit up, soul skill, roasted golden divine spear. As soon as he finished speaking, the gold-plated snake spear became a size larger. It was even bigger than the rod that Wang Feng had given Erming back then. Following this, the snake spear flowed with countless fiery patterns, as if it was about to burn. Clang! The snake spear suddenly stood in front of the snake spear Douluo and instantly covered his body. It was as if it had formed a wall that connected the heavens. The icy light was extremely quick. As it shot over, it struck the snake spear. Almost instantly, the flames on the snake spear froze. In the blink of an eye, the snake spear that was more than 10 meters long was frozen. Break! Seeing this, the snake spear Douluo revealed a confident smile. This roasted golden divine spear wasn't a simple soul skill. It was a type of soul skill that could break through control, whether it was binding, freezing, restraining, paralyzing, etc. It could break through all of them. At the same time, it could strengthen the snake spear. It could be used to resist the enemy's powerful attacks. It was a very strong, semi-defensive soul skill. However, the snake spear didn't react to the snake spear Douluo's words. Suddenly, the snake spear Douluo's expression changed. The other titled Douluo's expressions also changed. What's going on? The thorn dolphin Douluo furrowed his brow. As a good friend of the snake spear Douluo, he was naturally aware of the snake spear Douluo's soul skills. At this moment, the ghost Douluo spoke with a hoarse voice. I've already warned you that his ice seal isn't just a simple ice seal. It's also not a simple control type soul skill. His ice seal can freeze one's consciousness and spirit. If one's tool soul is frozen, there's a high chance that it will weaken the soul master's control over his or her martial soul. After hearing this, many titled Douluo's expressions changed again. That was the truth. The snake spear Douluo could feel that his connection with the snake spear had become much weaker. In particular, the flow of soul power within his tool soul had become much weaker. Although it hadn't completely disappeared, it made it difficult for him to command it. The connection between the two was weakened. The soul skill of 100,000-year soul bone was a 100,000-year soul ring that Wang Feng had fused with the cauldron of heaven and earth. The snake spear Douluo's scorching golden divine spear could nullify most control-type soul skills, but it couldn't nullify the Spirit Seal soul skill. This was because his connection with his martial soul had been weakened by the Ice Seal. At this moment, Wang Feng did not make a move. The snake spear Douluo's expression was terrible. After less than 10 seconds, the ice on the snake spear slowly melted, and it was completely freed. With his powers, the snake spear's martial soul true body could only be sealed in ice for around 10 seconds, but that was enough. I've lost. The snake spear Douluo withdrew his martial soul and spoke in a deep voice. 10 seconds. Although he didn't have his martial soul, his opponent's flying sword wasn't sealed in ice. It wasn't difficult for him to defeat a titled Dalu who couldn't use his martial soul. The white-clothed death god's Ice Seal soul skill was too effective against those who had tool souls. Once they were struck, they wouldn't be able to fight effectively in a short period of time. After all, most soul masters' martial souls were their strongest means of attack. This was the same for titled Dalu. Who else? Wang Feng swept his gaze across the remaining titled Dalu. These two were the weakest among them. However, after seeing him defeat two titled Dalu in a row, the remaining titled Dalu were more cautious, but they were also itching to fight him. Let me try. At this moment, the chrysanthemum Dalu slowly walked out. His martial soul was the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum. It was an extremely strong, control-type martial soul. Furthermore, he was ranked 95 and was a true, transcendent Douluo. Half a year ago, the chrysanthemum Douluo had wanted to spar with the white-clothed death god. However, he was too shocked then. After seeing Old Ghost being defeated, he didn't really make a move. But now, he couldn't take it anymore. Little Juju, I think you should be more careful. Gue Douluo chuckled. Although you're also a control-type soul master and can defend against his soul skills and flying swords, he hasn't even used his martial soul yet. The chrysanthemum Dalu snorted coldly and walked onto the plaza. Elder Ju is a transcendent Douluo, Hulaina muttered under her breath. As a control-type soul master, Elder Ju was very strong. At least, he was very strong against those of the same rank. BB Don watched quietly, as if he was calculating the white-clothed death god's abilities. It's you? The white-clothed death god looked at Elder Ju and said calmly, "Do you still remember what I said half a year ago? Why don't you wash your knees and forehead clean and kowtow today?" Hearing this, Elder Ju snorted coldly. He naturally remembered the agreement from half a year ago. "Let's talk about it after you defeat me," Elder Ju said plainly. After he finished speaking, the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum in his hand suddenly appeared. It turned into a platinum chrysanthemum. A faint fragrance spread across the entire plaza, along with the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum. Following this, Elder Ju's 9 soul rings lit up one after another without any hesitation. It seemed like he was about to unleash his soul skill. The white-clothed death god didn't wait either. The flying sword beside him immediately attacked the chrysanthemum Dalu. Soul skill, clear chrysanthemum morning breeze. It was an elegant name, and it seemed to fit the chrysanthemum Dalu style very well. Countless chrysanthemum petals floated up from his martial soul. After that, they quickly split and multiplied. In just an instant, it was raining chrysanthemum flowers. Amidst the falling petals, the flying sword's speed seemed to be greatly hindered. Not only did it slow down, but its accuracy also decreased. Wang Fengxin was slightly shocked. Is this a spiritual type, control type, soul skill? The dancing petals and the fragrance can greatly affect a soul master's spiritual power. It seemed like his opponent already knew how he was going to kill people with his flying sword. He was going to use his powerful spiritual power to control it. After that, he would immediately target it. Although these effects were not big for Wang Feng, they still affected him. The consequence was that the power of the flying sword was weakened. Perhaps it was not weakened by a lot, but in a battle of this level, even if it was weakened by a little, it was enough to decide the outcome of the battle. Indeed, after seeing that his flying sword was affected, the chrysanthemum Dalu's hand lit up once again. A pitch-black 10,000-year soul ring suddenly lit up. Soul skill, blazing sun chrysanthemum. The chrysanthemum Douluo roared. The stamen in the center of the chrysanthemum Douluo's hand quickly condensed into a streak of blazing light. It split into several streaks and attacked Wang Feng and his flying sword. Chapter 554. This beam of light was very quick and struck the affected flying sword. On the other hand, Wang Feng easily dodged the beam of light. If he was hit by the beam of light, he would also be injured. This was the benefit of increasing his spiritual power. If it were in the past, Wang Feng would have had to use Spirit Seal to resist the speed of this soul skill, unless he was at the spatial opening realm. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult for him to dodge it. Wang Feng had secretly activated the power of his blood patterns before the battle began. It was just that he hadn't activated his domain yet. The chrysanthemum Douluo was a little surprised when he saw the white-clothed death god dodge. He didn't stop, and the chrysanthemum in his hand lit up again. Another few attacks lit up. His attacks were long-range attacks. Although he was also a tool soul, he was much stronger than the snake spear Douluo. Long-range control-type soul masters weren't easy to deal with. Flying swords, spirit seal, and even ice reflection were all blocked or resisted by their opponents. This was especially so for a long-range control-type soul master, like the chrysanthemum Douluo. As long as he didn't get close to Wang Feng, he could easily dodge or defend himself. His singular velvet sky connecting chrysanthemum wasn't like the snake spear, which had to be used to deal with his enemies. It was very difficult to be hit by Spirit Seal. In addition, it had many other effects. The chrysanthemum Douluo seemed very weak in the original novel, but he wasn't weak at all. The singular velvet sky connecting chrysanthemum was an immortal herb. How could it be weak as a martial soul? In terms of plant quality, the singular velvet sky connecting chrysanthemum was only slightly inferior to the blue-silver emperor. The blue-silver emperor should be of the same quality as the yearning heartbroken red. Therefore, the chrysanthemum Douluo was very strong as he possessed the singular velvet sky connecting chrysanthemum. Right now, as the petals in mid-air slowly fell, the chrysanthemum Douluo could sense any changes in the air. Following this, the singular velvet sky connecting chrysanthemum in his hand became bigger. It became a huge chrysanthemum that was 7 to 8 meters long. His various soul skills, attributes, and soul power were all strengthened. It was his martial soul, true body. The chrysanthemum formed a tornado in the plaza, and the white-clothed death god couldn't escape. A streak of dazzling, icy light shot out from Wang Feng's body towards the huge chrysanthemum. However, it was blocked by the chaotic energy tornado, forming a dazzling ice tornado that shattered into countless ice shards. But then, a second tornado formed by countless petals was formed. This was the strength of long-range attacks. He could enjoy strong suppression to his heart's content. As long as Wang Feng used his Spirit Seal soul skill, the chrysanthemum Douluo would be prepared to unleash his soul skill to block it. As long as one had sufficient understanding of the white-robed death god, one would always be flexible, and the chrysanthemum Douluo was one such example. After all, it was very difficult for a titled Douluo to be struck by the same move, unless the other party was a fool. Wang Feng was not surprised when he saw this. The reason he came to the pontiff's palace and fought these titled Douluo was to let the martial soul hall know how strong the white-clothed death god was. It even helped him reach a very high position in the martial spirit palace. Only after becoming a consecrator in the Elder Hall would they be able to learn a lot of confidential information. Cauldron of Heaven and Earth. Therefore, Wang Feng summoned the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth. A scarlet light suddenly flashed. In order to confuse them, he even deliberately lit up his other 2 10,000-year soul rings, making it seem like he only had 3 soul rings. However, as 100,000-year soul swap, the dazzling light blinded the eyes of many titled Douluo present. Even though the ghost Douluo had mentioned it before, seeing it with their own eyes was completely different. Even the BB Don was a little shocked. There were only a handful of titled Douluo on the continent who had a 100,000-year soul ring. Every one of them represented a huge amount of potential. Not to mention, he was such a special expert. The light from the cauldron of heaven and earth shone for the first time in the eyes of so many titled Douluo. Soul skill, divine light of heaven and earth. Wang Feng shouted, and the cauldron of heaven and earth in his hand started to spin rapidly. Following this, a streak of 7-color divine light shone from the cauldron. This divine light passed through the tornado and landed on the huge, singular velvet sky chrysanthemum, as if it was not affected by the tornado at all. Wang Feng's fifth soul skill finally revealed its brilliance. In the next moment, the dazzling, singular velvet sky chrysanthemum, which exuded a chrysanthemum fragrance and a platinum-colored light, started to shrink at a visible speed. It was as if it had been shone on by Doraemon's shrinking lamp and was rapidly shrinking. Wang Feng was also watching. This was the first time Wang Feng had used his fifth soul skill on a titled Douluo. It was also the first time he had truly used his divine light of heaven and earth. This light landed very quickly, and it was not affected by the tornado at all. Furthermore, the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum was extremely huge, and there was no chance for him to dodge at all. He was hit, and even the chrysanthemum Douluo could not react in time. In just a few seconds, the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum turned into a palm-sized chrysanthemum. The light dimmed. It was like a wild chrysanthemum on the side of the road. Seeing this, everyone was stunned, and their mouths were wide open as they watched. Even the BB Don was a little astonished as he watched. Is this martial soul degradation? Seal? None of them had seen such a magical soul skill before. The chrysanthemum Douluo was the most astonished. He watched as his singular velvet sky chrysanthemum turned into a small wild chrysanthemum. Who would be able to endure this? What was even more frightening was that the chrysanthemum Douluo felt as if he could not use his soul skills at all. What kind of soul skill is this? The chrysanthemum Douluo swallowed his saliva. How is he going to fight this? All of his soul skills required the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum to unleash their powers. A small wild chrysanthemum could not withstand the power of a soul ring at all. That rainbow-colored divine light was too terrifying. It was important to note that the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum was still in its martial soul true body state, but it had degenerated after being engulfed by the rainbow divine light. This was a martial soul true body. Even a martial soul in its strongest state could not resist it. Who could withstand it in a fight? The divine light of heaven and earth did not disappoint me. Wang Feng nodded in his heart as he looked at the small, wild chrysanthemum. It's a pity. If only the divine light of heaven and earth could evolve my martial soul. Right now, the degeneration effect was enough to clinch victory. Silence. Everyone present was silent. Even the ghost law had not seen the divine light of heaven and earth before, let alone them. It was 100,000 years soul skill from the cauldron of heaven and earth, and it was unimaginably powerful. Everyone was astonished. Even the BB Don was a little astonished. This soul skill was too terrifying. The rainbow divine light covered a huge area. As long as it was a martial soul true body, it would be very difficult to dodge. This was because most titled Douluo's martial soul true body would become extremely huge, and they would be able to withstand this attack. Unless they did not use their martial soul true body, their powers would be greatly reduced. Chapter 555. Once one was hit, the blow would be fatal. The deterioration of one's martial soul was equivalent to sealing all of one's soul skills. Even if one forcefully used them, they wouldn't be very powerful. It was a godly skill. It was extremely important in any battle. The entire place was silent for more than 10 seconds. Even the singular velvet sky, connecting chrysanthemum, couldn't react in time. The chrysanthemum Douluo stared at the white-clothed Grim Reaper. With such a soul skill, It meant that any title Douluo would face the threat of having their martial soul deteriorate. It was the same for beast souls. This was because beast souls had to be possessed. Once they deteriorated, their various enhancements to the soul master would be greatly reduced. The chrysanthemum Douluo calculated that it wouldn't last for long. It would only last for 7 to 8 seconds. However, during this period, the chrysanthemum Douluo felt worse than if he had eaten **T. He watched as his martial soul turned into a little chrysanthemum. I admit defeat. The chrysanthemum Douluo sighed. The white-clothed Grim Reaper was too strong. Once he used his 100,000-year soul skill, the other title Douluo had to think twice. Initially, he had the upper hand. He could barely suppress his opponent with his various soul skills. However, it was impossible now. Just that short period of time was enough for the other party to use flying to defeat him. After the chrysanthemum Douluo was defeated, his 100,000-year soul skill shone brightly. The other Douluo started to retreat. A soul skill that could reduce the quality of one's martial soul was too difficult to deal with. However, title Douluo were title Douluo. They wouldn't back down so easily. Following this, 2 more title Dalu walked out. Their martial souls were the coiling dragon staff. Their titles were Qianjun. These 2 brothers were rank 96 transcendent Douluo. They were among the top title Douluo in the Elders' Hall. They were from the Elders' Hall. However, Bibidon had already unified the martial soul hall. Even the Elders' Hall's consecrated elders obeyed Bibidon. Only the transcendent Douluo didn't care about anything. However, these 2 titled Douluo were very strong. The Ghost Douluo was 1 rank lower than the 2 of them. This difference in rank was huge. However, these 2 couldn't defeat the white-clothed Grim Reaper. As soon as the Qinkuan Divine Light appeared, the 1,000 Jun Douluo's coiling dragon staff was reduced to a round wooden stick. He couldn't even unleash his martial soul true body. The demon subduing Douluo behind him had learned his lesson and decided not to unleash his martial soul true body. That way, he could just barely evade the rainbow divine light. Even if a titled Douluo didn't unleash their martial soul true bodies, their fighting prowess was still very strong. Furthermore, the demon subduing Douluo had already taken precautions against his opponent's various abilities, so he was able to hold his own against the white-robed death god. This also allowed everyone to understand the strength of this white-clothed god of death. In the end, Wang Feng relied on his original sin's domain to barely defeat the demon, subduing Douluo. If Wang Feng had unleashed his original sin's domain, he would have been able to resist it to a large extent. However, his original sin's domain was not complete, and he had not cultivated it for the past 6 months. Hence, it had not become much stronger. However, the demon-slaying Douluo hadn't unleashed his martial soul true body, so he was at a huge disadvantage. He was directly struck by Wang Feng's soul-sealing skill, and was sent flying by Wang Feng's explosive hammer strikes. However, the demon vanquishing Douluo's physique was much stronger than the ghost Douluo's. He did not suffer any serious injuries. Wang Feng couldn't help but sigh. The gap between them was too huge. The ghost Douluo had almost lost his fighting strength after being beaten up by him, but the demon vanquishing Douluo had only suffered some light injuries. Of course, this had a lot to do with their martial souls. The ghost Douluo's defense was extremely weak, but it had a certain degree of immunity to damage, which made up for this weakness. However, it was easily countered by spiritual seal. Although the demon vanquishing Douluo had a tool soul, his physique was extremely strong. Even in its normal form, the coiling dragon staff weighed at least a few thousand kilograms, or even more than 10,000 kilograms. His martial soul true body might even weigh several times more. He often used this weapon to train his body, so his physique was naturally not inferior to beast soul masters. In fact, he was even stronger. It was a narrow victory. The last person to step forward was a golden-haired elder. His martial soul was a golden crocodile, and he was an assault-type titled Dalu. He was at the peak of rank 97, and was only 1 step away from rank 98. Given Wang Feng's current state, He had his original sin's domain, his blood pattern power, his cauldron of heaven and earth, and his 100,000-year torso bone. Naturally, he couldn't defeat this rank 97 title Dalu. In fact, he was still very far from it. Unless he used his other 4 forms, he could only be in his full form. If he wanted to kill the other party, it would be impossible. Defeating him and killing him were 2 different concepts. Wang Feng could defeat the Chrysanthemum Dalu and the Ghost Dalu, but it would be very difficult for him to kill them. A title Dalu's life force was very strong. Once they fought with their lives on the line, it wouldn't be a simple fight anymore. It was just like the fight with the Ghost Dalu half a year ago. If the Ghost Dalu knew Wang Feng's abilities beforehand, he would have used all sorts of statuses and used his 8th and 9th soul skills without any regard for his own life. Wang Feng estimated that he would need to be at least rank 60 to be able to defeat a rank 97 title Dalu. He would probably need to be at least rank 70 or even rank 80 to be able to defeat a title Dalu at rank 98 and 99. Furthermore, the Golden Crocodile Dalu was the second consecrated of the Martial Soul Hall. His abilities were comparable to the Sword Dalu, who was also at rank 97, and he was even slightly stronger. This was because the Golden Crocodile Dalu was already at the peak of rank 97 and was only 1 or 2 years away from rank 98. Wang Feng had to be defeated by an opponent of this caliber. The Golden Crocodile Dalu was so strong that even Wang Feng's Spirit Seal could only seal him for less than 2 seconds. The strength of his flying sword couldn't even leave a mark on his body. His defensive abilities were terrifying. Even after consuming the universal divine light, his martial soul had deteriorated. The flying sword could only leave a very small mark on his body. One could only imagine how tough his physical body was. Wang Feng's soul skills were useless against the Golden Crocodile Dalu, who hadn't even unleashed his martial soul true body. Eventually, he relied on his ice reflection to prevent the Golden Crocodile Dalu from injuring him. The fight only ended when there wasn't a single drop of soul power left. You're the most durable soul master I've ever seen. In the end, the Golden Crocodile Dalu couldn't help but say this. However, this was already very perverse. This was because the white-clothed death god had challenged 5 title Dalu in a row, including the Ghost Dalu, who had already been defeated. 6 title Dalu had been defeated by the white-clothed death god. After fighting for so long, he was still able to fight the rank 97 Golden Crocodile Dalu without any injuries. In the end, he was defeated by the exhaustion of his soul power. This was ridiculously strong. The key was that his opponent had great potential. This was because he had a 100,000-year soul ring. After the fight, the group of people watched in silence. Everyone's expressions had changed from indifference to shock, seriousness, and even admiration. This white-clothed death god was indeed very strong. With his abilities, he could be ranked in the top 5 in a martial soul hall. Hulaina's eyes were already filled with stars as she stood behind BB Don. Too strong. How can he be so strong? Chapter 556. In the capital of Massacre, she felt that Wang Wu's abilities should be around that of a Soul Dalu. However, after coming out of Hell's Road, he even defeated the Ghost Elder. Half a year later, he came to the Pope's palace on time and challenged 5 title Dalu. He displayed his powerful abilities step by step. In the end, he forced the second consecrator to take action before he could suppress him. Hulaina did not expect such a situation. Amidst all the emotions, her eyes were filled with admiration. Good. BB Don finally opened her mouth. Her dignified voice had a rare hint of warmth. BB Don looked at the white-clothed Grim Reaper in the center of the plaza. Nicholas Wang Wu. What a simple name. A mysterious powerhouse who came from the extreme north could actually be so powerful. His cultivation method, soul bones, soul skills, martial soul, soul rings, and so on could be said to be the strongest and most unique existence that she had seen in all these years. Compared to 4 years ago, Jiui Kai was not inferior at all. In fact, he was much stronger. Most importantly, he had saved Nana before. This meant that he did not hate the martial soul hall. The ghost Douluo and chrysanthemum Douluo had also handled things well. They had put all the blame on the two of them. It also gave her a chance to recruit him to fill the gap. With such a powerful main force, as long as she kept him in the martial soul hall, her future plan would succeed. Bibidon thought to herself. She had to admit that watching the white-clothed Grim Reaper fight 6 consecutive battles gave her a different feeling every time. Wang Wu, are you really willing to join the martial soul hall? Bibidong wore a smile on his face as he led the 7 titled Douluo to the plaza. Wang Fengxin was secretly on guard. If they were not careful, he would immediately use instant teleportation to escape. Thinking back to the 6 battles, Wang Fengxin had already rehearsed them, except for the last battle against the golden alligator Dalu. The pressure from the rank 97 titled Dalu was beyond Wang Feng's imagination. The other 5 battles were all within Wang Feng's expectations. I promise that as long as you are sincere in joining the martial soul hall, you will be my subordinate. Your position will only be below mine. I will give you the position of Pope Tiff in the martial soul hall as the white-clothed Pope Tiff. At the same time, I will apply to the Elder Council to appoint you as the 3rd consecrator of the Elder Hall. Bibidon looked at the white-clothed Grim Reaper in front of her. Wang Feng's heart skipped a beat. The Martial Spirit Palace actually had 2 main forces, the Pontiff Palace and the Elder's Palace. The consecrator, of course, the consecrator of the Soul Hall's consecrator. Among the elders, the consecrator of the elders. Pope Bibidong had been working hard for the past few years and had won over many elders in the Martial Spirit Palace to listen to her orders. By the by, the Douluo, of the by. To put it simply, Wang Feng understood the relationship between the ZF and Mao Zedong. The consecrator of the Pope was the Bibidong. It was Wang Feng's first time hearing of the Pope disposition, but it was only below the Pope. Just this point alone was enough to prove that Bibidong wanted to win him over. The Elders' Hall couldn't be bypassed, so he had to have a position in the Elders' Hall. However, no matter which one it was, they were both above everyone else. The golden alligator Dalu frowned slightly when he heard this, but he didn't say anything. The white-clothed Grim Reaper did have such strength. It was just that Bibidong was too presumptuous to make such a promise. Pope Tiff's position also needed to be discussed by the elders in the Elders' Hall. The Pope only had the right to choose. In the consecrator of the Pope's Hall, this position was the highest position other than the Pope. Bibidong obviously wanted to nurture the white-clothed Grim Reaper into a confidant. Hulina, who was behind, also opened her eyes wide and looked at Wang Feng without blinking. She naturally knew about Pope Tiff's position. In the history of the Martial Spirit Palace, Pope Tiff was actually equivalent to the Pope. It was just that with the slow development of the Martial Spirit Palace, they split into 2 different positions. Pope Tiff's position was already half abolished. Especially after Bibidong took over, this title was completely abolished. She didn't expect her teacher to take out this position again as a promise. This was enough to prove that her teacher really valued Wang Wu very much. Thinking of this, Hulina blushed and looked at the white-clothed Grim Reaper with sparkling eyes. It doesn't matter if it's a position or not. I'm just here because I'm interested in the Martial Spirit Palace. I just want to join the Martial Spirit Palace. Now I do feel that the Martial Spirit Palace is a little interesting. Wang Feng still said indifferently, as if he didn't know how noble this position was. Bibidong wanted to win him over and make him his confidant. That couldn't be better. It wasn't a waste of his sincerity and planning for so long. Of course, this position couldn't be taken so easily. It was just a promise, and it didn't mean that Bibidong would really tell him everything. But at least he was close to the biggest villain in the original work. Wang Feng even thought that with Bibidon's position, he would definitely give him various tests once he found something wrong. But anyway, with this position, he could definitely get in touch with some secrets of the Martial Spirit Palace. Good. Hearing the answer, Bibidon's smile became bigger. Then, I have shown my sincerity. Wang Wu, you should also show your sincerity. What sincerity? Wang Feng asked. BB Don smiled and pointed at the mask on Wang Feng's face. This you should take it off, because Pope Tiff of the Martial Spirit Palace can't show his face with a mask. Don't worry, even if there is any chronic disease on your face, the Martial Spirit Palace will cure you and give you the most perfect image. Wang Feng smiled secretly. This was Bibidon's test. Wang Feng, who had watched countless spy movies in his previous life, was not surprised at all. Also, your age. BB Don continued. Hearing these two sentences, Hulaina's heart tightened. Naturally, she was the most curious one. What you said is not a problem. Wang Feng said, age? I'm about 40 years old this year. 7 title Dalu, plus BB Don, 8 of them were staring at Wang Feng. As long as there was a problem with what he said, it would arouse suspicion. But when Wang Feng said it, there was no change in his expression. Adding up the 2 lives, he was indeed almost 40 years old. Naturally, he didn't mean to lie. He is already 40 years old? Hulaina's heart trembled. 40 years old was still the golden age for a soul master. Back then, the vast sky also became a titled Douluo in his 40s. And now, the white-clothed death god, who was not even 40 years old, had the strength of a rank 96 titled Dalu. My cultivation realm is different from ordinary soul masters. Can you judge it by the level of ordinary soul power? Wang Feng continued. My strength, I think you have seen it, several titled Dalu nodded. Absorbing all kinds of emotions to cultivate was indeed different from ordinary soul master's meditation to cultivate soul power. But when he heard that the other party was not even 40 years old, BB Don was delighted. This white-clothed death god's talent was even more terrifying than the vast sky Douluo's. As for the mask, of course, Wang Feng said calmly, I don't have any chronic disease on my face. The reason why I wear a mask is that I told the girl behind you in Massacre City. I just don't want to shock the world. Since you want to know, then take a look. After saying that, Wang Feng took off the seamless mask with a whoosh. P.S. Seeing so many readers trying to kill me in the game, I can only say that it's useless. The game I play with my friends is a game from many years ago. It's not a battle-type game. I should be playing games with my friend for the next 2 nights. I guarantee that I will update at least 6 times. If you don't want to play, I will update 2 more times also. I don't eat bat sashimi. End of chapter. Chapter 557. Wang Feng's current appearance was completely different from 4.5 years ago. Therefore, Wang Feng didn't have any considerations when he showed it to the people from the Martial Spirit Palace. The reason why he wore the mask was actually very simple. He just didn't want to shock the world on the surface. Now that BB Don wanted him to show his sincerity, there was naturally no problem. Wang Feng happened to be waiting for this. In fact, one's appearance was very important. Once it was revealed, it was very difficult to hide in front of a titled Douluo with a simple disguise or slight change of body shape. Even if Wang Feng used one of the 4 great evil techniques in his previous life, the makeup technique, to deceive ordinary people, it was very unlikely to work on a titled Dalu. This was also the reason why he had to wear the mask. As long as Wang Feng's appearance made BB Don feel that something was wrong, the result would be different. Therefore, BB Don needed to see the appearance of this white-clothed Grim Reaper. However, no one would have thought that Wang Feng's dustless glass body had undergone an earth-shaking change after being tempered by the Red Lotus. The moment the mask was lifted, there seemed to be a ray of light that bloomed from the mask. In an instant, the world became still. The clouds in the sky rolled up shyly. The sunlight crazily spread on the white figure. The surrounding wind also blew away shyly. Sometimes it couldn't help but want to turn back and form a breeze, blowing the snow-white clothes. The flowers around the square also revealed their stamens to the white figure. It was as if he was the sun, causing them to be borne towards the sun. Almost instantly, the moment when they saw the face of the white-clothed Grim Reaper, everyone's mind went blank. A sentence involuntarily appeared in their minds. How could there be such a good-looking person in the world? His facial features seemed to be even more exquisite than the most exquisite parts in the world, but there was also a natural feeling to them, as if they were just like that, without a single flaw. However, upon closer inspection, they felt that they were incomparably mysterious and hard to figure out. His eyes seemed to hide the universe, the sun, the moon, and the galaxy. It was hard to extricate oneself from just one look and be immersed in it. The pure aura poured out. Even the evilest and most evil person in the world would feel close to him. Bring disaster to the country and the people. Turn all living things upside down. A few words appeared in Hulaina's mind. Too handsome. How could there be such a good-looking person in this world? Hulaina stared at Wang Wu in a daze. So what he said was true. When he said that he was unwilling to take off his mask, it was indeed because he was too handsome. With such a face, if he were to walk on the streets, it would be difficult for him to move an inch. She wasn't the only one. Everyone else present felt the same way. However, as title Dalu, they were more astonished by Wang Wu's aura, which resonated with heaven and earth, than by Wang Wu's handsomeness. After becoming a title Dalu, one would naturally have a different understanding of heaven and earth. But now, looking at Wang Wu, they felt that his aura was really mysterious. It actually gave them a natural feeling. Just like what he said, shocking the world. Bibi Don was also a little shocked. Appearance was one aspect, but more importantly, temperament. Even she couldn't help but feel a sense of closeness. It was like a natural feeling. However, this feeling of closeness was quickly dispelled by her. This Wang Wu is too special. Bibi Don couldn't help but take a deep breath. His charm is simply unfathomable. Not to mention women, even men, and all kinds of soul beasts will be attracted to him. No wonder he can survive in the extreme north. As she spoke, Bibi Don looked at her disciple, who was completely mesmerized. She couldn't help but think to herself, indeed, with Nana's charm and foresight, who hadn't she seen in the martial soul hall? She didn't change at all in the capital of massacre. Now, she was also mesmerized. Bibi Don thought that if she were a few decades younger, she wouldn't be much better than Hulaina. However, she had experienced so many ups and downs now. She had the abilities of a titled Dalu, so she wouldn't be affected to this extent. Cough, cough. At this moment, Wang Feng put on his mask again. It was as if the boundless light was covered. Is this sincerity okay? Bibi Don was silent for a moment. There weren't many doubts in her heart anymore. The other, titled Dalu, also regained their senses and looked at each other. Compared to the other party's charm, they were naturally more shocked by the white-robed death god's aura. Especially when combined with his appearance, it gave people a feeling that he was a perfect whole. From today onwards, you are the Popetiff of the Pontiff's Palace. Your name is White-Robed Popetiff. Without hesitation, Bibi Don waved the scepter in her hand lightly. A clear voice resounded in the huge Pontiff's Palace and pierced through the clouds. Popetiff's position was high, second only to the Pontiff. His appointment naturally had to be announced to the entire continent. Almost on the second day, official documents were distributed from the Pontiff's Palace to all the martial soul halls on the continent. Suddenly, the entire continent was shocked. Whether it was the two empires or the 7 great sects, they were all shocked by the mysterious appearance of white-robed Popetiff. What this position represented, as long as one was in the upper echelons, they knew. If it was in the past, he would be on the same level as the Pontiff. Now, the position that had been abolished by Pontiff Bibi Don was restored, and it was restored by Pontiff Bibi Don himself. One could imagine what this white-robed Popetiff represented. For a moment, the entire continent was filled with rumors about the new white-robed Popetiff of the Martial Soul Hall. Some said that he was a secret weapon that the Pontiff had secretly nurtured. Once he woke up, his strength would shock everyone. Some said that this unknown person was recruited by the Pontiff. A giant dragon went out to sea, one below 10,000 people. Some even said that he might be an illegitimate child, or the Pontiff's, without much strength. Of course, these rumors were the wild guesses of most soul masters who didn't know about the world. Anyone with a little brain would know that the Popetiff's position couldn't be taken without strength. What's more, he was personally appointed by Bibi Dan and promoted to this position, especially the two empires and the seven great sects. These forces were very familiar with the martial soul hall. It was simply shocking to the bone. There was no doubt that the appearance of this white-robed Popetiff instantly added a layer of fog to the turbulent continent, making it difficult for people to see the situation. The entire continent was guessing who this white-robed Popetiff was. Heavendo City, Moon Pavilion. Half a year ago, Tang San followed his father to this place. According to his father, he needed to settle down, calm his mind, and wash away the killing intent in his body. Here, Tang San also met his father's younger sister, who was also his aunt, Tang Yuehua. In half a year, Tang Yuehua taught Tang San a lot of noble etiquette and various knowledge of the continent. She also slowly calmed down Tang San's heart, which was tainted with all kinds of negative emotions in the capital of slaughter, and his temperament became more mellow and elegant. End of chapter. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.